Got it.
All right, well, once again, thank you as we go through our technical issues. But welcome to the Berlin Select Board meeting. Today is Monday, September 30th. Is that a knuckle or a non-knuckle? It's a knuckle. All right.
It's a non-knuckle, because there's only 30 days in the month.
All right, so it's a non-knuckle. All right. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:38. Remember that open session public meetings are recorded and your voice and image will be on for the world to see forever and ever.
Should we at least acknowledge that for the first time we're actually on YouTube? We're on YouTube Live right now.
It says we are.
I don't think anybody's really watching, but we're live on YouTube
We
right
are
now.
live
so.
on YouTube.
That's exciting, so it's, you don't have to call in, you can just.
Well, so YouTube Live's one directional, so they can watch us live, but
You can't
there's
participate
not a
or-
comment
Yeah.
back, right? You still be on Zoom to
Yeah.
communicate back.
Do you think anybody in Germany is watching us?
Could be, you never know.
I don't know.
With the bear, the
Well,
Berlin bear, could
But
be.
it's not just the Berlin Bear. I thought when we did like the website analysis, that like a third of all the traffic to the town of Berlin website is from Germany.
Yeah, it is, Berlin. All right.
And my German friends, I tease them when they're like,
Moving
hey,
on.
here's a party I'm going to in Berlin. I'm
He
like,
hasn't been there
great,
for a
I'll be
while.
right there.
We just lost cable access.
Well, it's over now.
Sorry, I won't talk about how great it is anymore.
Okay,
Oh, no, they can hear us still on YouTube Live, they just can't see us.
Okay,
that's fine.
Oh.
All right.
we'll figure that out.
Well, we will chug along.
Okay.
So first up on
July,
our
August,
agenda
September.
are the approval of minutes from August 26th and September 16th. Do I get a motion?
Motion to approve with a couple of edits.
What are the edits?
On August 26th, I think one of the two bullets for Barnes Hill Road should be deleted because they are identical,
Okay.
about the speed limit, and it's on page 2. And on September 16th, pliable should be spelled Playabols. And that's in the fire monthly report, instead of pliable, Pliable.
We don't do the monthly reports for fire, so we'll let them know. All right, so,
Well, no, it was in the minutes.
all right, so Scott, I'm thinking, do you want to
I-
abstain or have you watched the
Right,
playbacks?
I've not watched the playbacks, but
Okay.
I'll abstain, although I've read them.
Okay.
but-
All right.
Although I didn't seem to catch those, and now I'm
So I
worried.
made the motion.
All right, so I will second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstain?
Mhm.
All right. Onward we go. General public comment. Nada? All right. So, first up, we're a little late, the 1870 Town Hall Committee discussion. Come on down, have a chair, bring up another one so all of you can join. Thanks, dear. You gotta sit in the middle, Bob.
That way anybody can hear anything important you have to say.
All right.
Is that a recording?
Yeah, you're on recorded. All right, so if you could, for those watching or watching on playback, tell us who you are briefly. And then, what do you got for us?
Do you have the papers?
I didn't print it out, but I read it.
Okay.
Yep,
Well,
was-
actually, I
it
have
was-
it here.
Yeah,
Okay, because we
Yeah.
got it to you sort of late.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
but I happened to be reading things when you got it to us, so that I was able to read it.
I'm Evie Dewick, and I'm a member of the 1870 Town Hall Committee.
you'll need to speak more closer into the microphone.
I'm Evie Dewick, and I'm committed to the revival of the 1870 Town Hall, and therefore I'm a member of the 1870 Town Hall Committee.
I am Bob McTagg, also on the 1870 Town Hall Committee. And we were on the committee many years ago before it was,
Popular? No.
before it was,
Before it was trendy.
before COVID and before it was, was taken away.
And last, but by no means least.
Mary Reddington, also Town Hall Committee.
All right, well, thank you for coming, we appreciate it. And Evie, I will turn it over to you.
Good
Okay.
thing there's no video. All right, I'm pleased to report that we met a number of times, and we have identified 4 areas of focus. And they are, number 1, facility. maintenance, updates, cleaning, and repairs of the building itself. Number 2, usage. And that would be, how do we organize the fee structure? How do we collect data on users and fees? And how do we also keep track of the number of people using the building? Number 3, communication and marketing. And number 4, funding. So we're focusing our efforts on those 4 areas. For your consideration tonight, we'd like to focus on the facility. It is our opinion that the facility needs a little upgrade, and we have reviewed the facilities report that the town
Procured.
procured, and looked at everything ourselves and are recommending the following. And I'm reading from the paper, which you have, but the audience doesn't have it, so I'll go ahead and read it, part of it anyway. The first area of concern, and these aren't necessarily in priority order either, but we think we can recommend everything that we have listed to be done soon. The path on the building's south side, which is the Bullard House side, we already are working with Austin Design to propose design for the drainage and the driveway. So we spoke with Kristen to see about adding a walkway up the side of the building that would be sort of a long sort of thing, and then a little stair, and then a long sort of thing, if you know what I mean. Sort of, not just a stairway, but more of a graduated thing. So we propose that we add that to the design so that they can incorporate that. We hope that's okay with you. And the second thing is the front granite steps, which are clearly a little bit in need of work. Rather than just fixing those, we propose that we would add another kind of stairway, fix those, but also add another sort of stairway. So if you're facing the building, these are the granite steps, and there's these little stairs that go to face driveway. We propose that we actually take a little time here on this project and hire Austin, since they know us, they know the building, they did the elevator project, they're doing this. And we asked them to design sort of maybe a little kind of stairway that would come down to the sidewalk on that side. And we have ideas on what that might look like, but we're not designers or engineers, and it relates to the building and the slope and everything. But we really think that since most people are parking right on Woodward Ave and in the center of town, that's mostly where they come. So they would have those 2 options. Actually, they would have the 3 options, but they'd right away see that more inviting stairway that perhaps Austin could design. But they could also do the granite steps or the one that's by the Bullard House. That's B.
And we're proposing that because in our experience talking to people in the town, the town spent a lot of time and money to put the elevator in and make the building accessible. And now there's people who are not necessarily in a wheelchair, but, may have had surgery or have a little bit struggling and they need a cane or something. And the granite steps are very imposing. And so people think the building is inaccessible. And we know that it's not, and we want to encourage people to see that slight incline, it's no further than walking from Target into your car, and that people can easily access the building who are not necessarily driving up with a wheelchair.
Yeah, because the side stair that goes to Faith, a lot of people don't even.
You can't see it.
They can't see it. They're not aware that it's there, even though there is a railing. So something that kind of gradually bends around and goes down to the street, I think would be more inviting. It would be really, visual to people when they came and parked.
So,
Recording in progress.
as much as we would like that to be done immediately, we propose that we actually apply for CPA funding for the design, which we know takes a year, and then we would approve the design with the people that need to approve it, and then we would apply for the construction money. So fair
Recording
disclosure,
in progress.
we're basically saying that we think that a 2-year plan is okay for that, because we think it's important to do that well. And we are working with Complete Streets, as you know, and we want to make sure that connects completely, appropriately. So that is very important to us all. Now, this is the fun part, because we want you to do this right away. So inside, if we're going to get this building back up and running and, fun to be in, there's some interior painting that needs to be done. So I met with Fred, our DPW, Fred Cummings, DPW, whatever his
Highway
title is.
superintendent.
Superintendent, highway superintendent. And I went over all these things with him. And he mentioned that his first phone call would be to Ramos Painting, which is a local painting company. So I offered to call them for him, and so I did. And they came right away and met with us at the building on Labor Day, which is amazing. And they gave us some verbal quotes, and I can get them in writing, but they were amazing, in my opinion, in our opinion. Mary and I met with them. And so the areas that we're recommending that they take care of, which are the areas that we showed them, were, number one, the curved foyer stairwell, which is stunningly beautiful, and it's original plaster that's peeling, and you can't just scrape it and paint it. It needs to have something done to the plaster, and that is an advanced technique of mesh placement and then a little bit of plaster. They can do that. They offer to do that. And that whole project of the curved foyer stairwell, including painting the baseboard, is $7,500, which is, in my opinion, about a third of what you'd pay somebody else to do. The second thing is Barnes Hall, which is the room on the main floor. It has a ceiling that is peeling, which is tin. And then the walls are a little bit also needing some repair and painting. And so they offered to paint the ceiling for free. We said, great, we would love that. They will scrape it and paint it. We would need to pay for the paint, but they will do the labor. And then they would paint and prime the walls. The third area is the selectmen's room, which is the small room on the left when you come in. Once again, it has the same ceiling challenge. It's a metal tin ceiling, which is peeling, and they said they would scrape it and paint it for no cost. And the walls are very inconsistently painted and messy. They would repair it again and paint them, and that cost is $1,750. And then the fourth area is the basement stairs, which go from the main entrance down the stairs. And I don't know if you remember that area, but it's pretty scary because it looks like the wall could fall on you, which is not a good thing. They would actually fix the walls, paint for $1,500. So the total cost of these projects is $14,250, which we think is just an incredible price from a local company. And we would really love for the select board to consider pulling some of that money wherever you can find it, and perhaps ARPA funds. I don't know enough about where you can find money, but I would really, we would really recommend that. I can say why that is more if you want to know, but it has everything to do with getting that building back on track, because that's the visual when you go in.
Those were also all in the facilities report.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
good.
right. Yep.
So if I
okay.
can interject for just
Yeah,
one moment. So
yeah.
Evie and I did have a discussion that we would unfortunately have to do procurement because it's over 10.
So anything between 10 and 50 that is construction, which is anytime you take anything to a wall, we would have to advertise it and do a scope of work, and just put out a small request for quotes. So it's not a full bid, but it's smaller.
And
Do
the
them
rules again
separately.
for under $10,000?
Kristen can sign up.
Under $10,000, it's sound business practices. Yes, and you have to have obviously insurance and licensure, but you can go with a contractor of your choice, provided the price is, fair to the town.
So can't you do them separately?
Unfortunately, no, they call that bid splitting, when it's one painting.
Well, we wouldn't want to do
Yeah, and Evie actually asked that question, so you're not alone. Because they're different areas, but unfortunately, it's one company doing an overall repair in the same building at the same time. So that would look,
Building.
unfortunately, not too favorably to the state.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it.
So
I mean, I
if we
saw-
only had $7,500
Never mind.
now and had to spend a month trying to find the other money, you don't have to answer the question.
I think that I could get the advertisement out for the quotes relatively quickly. And it's basically like a 2 to 3 week process
Right.
for the advertising.
Okay. And we spoke to them about timing, and they would welcome, the work when it gets cold, because it's an interior
Mhm.
job. So I think that they would prioritize us as soon as we can.
And if we happen to find a good company with great connections that will do it for less, I think we'd all be happy too. I think you're right, knowing what little I know about painting stuff is that there might not be, but, and so then the other part is then, do we have enough ARPA funds to want to do this? Yeah, I mean, it might mean we have other projects vying for some of that funds, but I think,
Correct.
but I have a soft spot for the 1870 Town Hall. It would gladly approve spending, sorry, I've changed tabs on my screen here. I don't have the total in front of me.
I believe
but
it's
it's like
30
14 something.
31 and
We
change.
Oh,
have
I'm
31,
sorry, I thought you
we have
meant
31
ARPA.
and change,
Yeah.
and they're asking for
14.
14,250.
So I
I
have a
was
few
just reading
questions.
it.
I know you're shocked.
Yeah.
The walkway that you were talking about, earlier, with the Bullard House. So
Yep.
if you go back up to A, how does that relate to the changes that the Bullard House is wanting with irrigation and all that other stuff? Because I don't want to do one project and then turn around and then undo that project to redo that project, and you're pointing.
Kristen?
That's exactly why it was a great time that Evie brought that up, because we walked the site. Austin is doing the drainage because they did it before. They're just updating their plans, and they can
Okay.
incorporate this in. And so they're updating the stormwater for the drainage as well as the parking lot plans, and then we do have the money from capital to pave it once all of that is complete.
And to be clear, I think the boathouse is talking about drainage, not irrigation. There's no irrigation project with the boathouse.
Non-irrigation.
Correct.
Right.
Get rid of the water.
And our walk is right up the side of that
Yeah.
driveway that
Yeah.
goes up, so it's all
Yeah.
really part of.
Yeah, I think as a whole, we believe that there's an interplay between those two buildings, sort of, anyway.
In regard to the gradual stair structure, have you actually spoken with Mrs. Lindsay about it? Because you said that gradual stair structure from the side curving next to Faith's driveway. Have you gotten any input from her, whether she's for or against it? Because I know with past events, they have reached out because people spill out
Right.
and they spill into her driveway. So I'm thinking if you're giving access, that's almost an open invitation to be like, hey,
So
come
it
on out.
actually takes it away from that.
Okay.
So what we're proposing is not to use her driveway, although we have the right to use that driveway because it's a shared driveway.
Okay.
But no, it would curve down and come to the street, so.
Right.
Now people have to walk up her
Up her
driveway.
driveway and then go
Turn
across.
left to go up those set of stairs, so we would have it curved down to the sidewalk.
Beside her driveway, which is our driveway too, just so you know, or everybody knows, that's a shared driveway with 1870 and her.
Did not know. ADA compliant?
Well, everything's ADA compliant, yes.
Okay.
So that
Um,
would be part of what we would
Austin
be
is-
asking.
That's why we were asking
Aus-
Austin to do it.
Austin to
so
do it
Because
because
he's already there.
they're-
they know.
They know all those rules and everything. That's why we're proposing we hold off on that a little
Yep.
longer,
Mhm.
that we do it properly.
Has Sandra seen this? I'm gonna assume yes, and what were her comments, where she is the 1870 town manager?
Sandra has seen our document and is in huge favor of getting all this painting done especially. Yeah.
So if we were to approve the money for the painting, what do you see that as a positive impact to start getting business opportunities back in that building to somehow make it self-sufficient, which has been the goal for many, many years?
Well, basically, if you walk into a building where the paint is peeling, it looks crappy, you're not gonna wanna use it. And if you walk into a building that's beautifully maintained, you're gonna wanna use it. So it's pretty simple.
Have you started to talk to anybody about come back to 1870, or hey, 1870 is open for business?
Not directly, I mean, we've mentioned it around a little bit, but we really feel strongly, at least I think we do, that we wanna get all our ducks in line first, so
Mhm.
we don't wanna sort of unplug the dam of interest, as it were, or let the stream out, whatever the expression is, until we get the website. We're working on website, which is later in our presentation,
Mhm.
but Mary's doing that. So until we're public facing more, and it's done, like the painting is done, as soon as that's ready, we're ready to roll. Yeah. And just so you know, I think I might have mentioned it, but it's nice to put it publicly, as the manager of the 19 corridor, I get a lot of requests for rentals that I send over to the 1870, yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Okay,
Well,
Let me
that-
just say
We're
one
good with
thing.
that. Yep.
so,
I was glad to see that you've included priming in part of the process.
yes,
Because especially with an old building,
Yeah.
you're gonna have peeling if
Yes.
you don't.
yep,
And especially on the ceilings.
exactly.
If you're gonna just paint with latex or something,
And
forget it.
I think that's why we're in the peeling
Yeah.
situation right now.
Yes, I think it probably wasn't primed.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that that's included. Don't let them skip that.
Yeah, well, I think we were both really impressed. We didn't lead, when we spoke with them, Mary and I met with them on that day. We didn't say to them, like you can say, we need this. We just said, the ceiling needs to be done, and they're like, oh, yeah, we gotta scrape that, we gotta prime it. They're the ones that said that. And same with that curved wall. I have some experience with that old restoration thing.
Yeah.
And, so, I was sort of expecting someone that's sort of cheap to say,
I would say tape.
we'll use that tape, and thinking that we didn't know. So we were like, no. And they're like, no, need full mesh. And I'm like, oh, yes. Then they plaster, skim coat, then they prime. So they feel like, at least they said everything that we would have wanted. And obviously we'll get the full
Yes.
estimate.
And
So
is this-
Thank
is
you,
this-
Chris.
Is this Ramos, is that
On
related-
Pleasant Street.
Is it related to, I'm thinking maybe it was related to the fellow who goes and does roofing.
I don't
No.
think so.
No, I don't
No,
think
I
so.
don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Through the
Sure.
chair? Oh,
Good.
no, you go.
Any other questions?
I was just wondering if, because I think this is the only one that talks about money, whether or not we
Yeah.
want to do our vote now before we get on to the other stuff, or you want to take that with ARPA later on to that, or?
No.
I'd like to hear a recommendation if you have one.
You and I are exactly on the same page. I was actually going to make a recommendation. I did sit with Evie, and we had a long conversation about this and everything else that's going on. I know that the ARPA funding, one of the things we talked about is wanting to put some of it into the facilities, and I think this is a great opportunity to do so. We have, at this time, just shy of $31,300 remaining to be appropriated. The painting, if that's just rounded to 15,000. The playground came in at 15,000 over, but we actually have to put that out to bid. So there's a possibility that that could come in even cheaper. And then the only other concrete item that we had a price for was that HR training at $23.50. And I believe we're gonna actually have some money left over on the weatherization as well, which has been installed. So, yes, I would recommend that we do move forward with the painting. I think to their point, you know, someone walks into a building and wants to see what it looks like before they rent it. And the image is really important, especially if you're gonna have a wedding or a baby shower or any event like that. So my recommendation would be to use, and you said you'd have to buy the paint additionally too, right?
It's part of the.
Is
part of
it
the
included in the 14,250?
No, the 3 gallons for the ceiling, we would need to buy, they were thinking $60 a gallon.
That's about what it's
Yeah.
up to now.
Yeah,
So
and that's
60
like,
times, yeah.
that's using their discount at a place that, you know, they're like,
Yeah.
only
So
the
it'd be another
Benjamin
180
Moore, you
maybe.
know, they give you the
Yep.
name of.
So, yeah, it could be.
So round up to 15,
And-
just do easy math.
Yeah.
And I would assume you're doing sort of historically appropriate colors. We're not gonna go in and find some sort of
We were
modern
thinking red
1920s.
for the whole building.
There are some there are some
Purple.
historic reds that could be good, but as long as this is
Black
more
and red,
historic
black
covered.
and red.
No.
Actually, we really
Just
didn't
white.
make a decision
Yeah,
on
no.
colors, we're
But-
looking at neutral
Right.
that matches what's there.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
I would gladly make a motion to take allocate 15,000 from ARPA funds for painting projects they've outlined, with the idea that we send it out to procurement as quickly as we could.
Second.
And under discussion, I'm talking for you. May I put one caveat on that? Sorry, Peg. I just we talked about just making sure that historical was looped in to knowing what's going on, as it is a historic building. So if you could reach out to June Miller and make sure that they're on board.
I think that's in line with my, wanting historic,
Colors,
sort of an appropriate color, but yes. Historic Commission is more in tune with what that means than I am. I'm fine with that.
White or historic color. No awful weird colors.
Yeah, historic green.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to spend 15,000 from ARPA to give to the town hall committee to do some painting and repairs. Got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
So do you want us to continue reporting on how we're doing, or do you feel like you're overloaded right now?
I'd be okay with you coming back.
Okay.
Once you have more website done, then we could do a show and tell.
Yep,
We
Okay.
could plug you into the big TV.
because we all can handle all that technology.
Yes, we can.
I'll be working, I know, donuts, yes, I know.
You know, with that, and then we can go over, at the same time, I would assume that you'd have the fee schedule.
Yeah, so can I
Done.
just, so if that's okay with you, I just want to say two things then. I just want to say that just to plan, the fee schedule would be next, which is perfect, and would love to talk to you about that. But we just wanted to plant the thinking in your minds that I think you probably agree with, that the priorities for the use of the building are for the larger public events, town-wide activities, holidays, cultural events, concerts, dances, things that's our only space that we can do them. So and recreation activities too, that's really our only public space. So when we work on the fee structure with Sandra, we would like to have that reflect that philosophy, right? Okay, so just.
The other thing that even in that prioritization is not to bump people who have booked. And so, like someone who says, I'm doing a wedding in October of 2026, and then suddenly in August of 2026, Recreation wants to do something there, that sorry, this other place already has that, and figure out an appropriate timescale
Yeah.
that where town events can't bump someone else out there. Otherwise, you're not gonna get people who rented if they think their chances that they're gonna be bumped by a town event is even
Or vice
minor.
versa.
We completely
Or
agree
vice
with
versa,
that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's been a big topic, and I think that to address that, we've been working hard on a calendar that we're gonna share publicly, and that we will work with all the town committees to make sure that they know by when to get us their dates, so that we don't ever have that problem. Yeah.
And then you're talking about a separate website from the town.
Yes,
That's right.
but you could it'll link.
Well, not only link, but you could look at having it be a subdomain, so 1870.berlin, I forget what the rest of it is for the town, but so that it's not an entirely separate domain. It still somehow has a feeling that it's linked as part of the town. I can talk to you sort of
Okay.
more about
Okay.
that.
We'll
Absolutely.
definitely, whatever works for you. The key for us is that we have access to be able to change it quickly, because you have to keep it live
Yep.
and fresh. So that's all we really are going for. And then just the final thing is this big, beautiful binder, which I love, so I can let you look at it. Don't you just love this? It's got full of Excel sheets, it's by the month. This is what we would like to see return to the 1870 Town Hall. This is what we had happening pre-COVID. I'll just give it to you to look at. It just makes my heart beat so fast.
Reporting
We
is something
really,
that really
really,
turns me
it
on.
just shows to go you how the detail of what we kept track of.
Right.
Who was there year by year. You can see, you know, the increase in occupancy and things that were going on. And, you know, COVID, like many things in the world, it got unwound during that time.
Yeah.
So we want to get back to usage data collection.
Mhm.
And we already have all the forms, so we would like to see that returned.
So.
I would encourage it to be as much online and electronic as possible, because it makes it easier to search and
Yeah,
analyze
absolutely.
and share with more people.
Mhm.
Right?
So
Yeah,
when do you think
absolutely.
you'd be able to come back with a looky-peeky at your website? No pressure.
A month?
Yeah. Okay, we'll pencil you in.
Okay.
And through the chair to the committee, if you can get me the scope in writing,
Yep.
a little more than
More
just.
than this, what you have, yeah.
Yeah, then what I can do is every Wednesday at 4 PM is the deadline for advertisement in the Central Register and combis that we have to advertise in. So if you can get that to me by, say, tomorrow night, I can probably get it in on Wednesday. I know you can make things happen, so I'm just throwing that out there. If not, we'll get it in next week.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll just
Okay.
build that a little better.
Not to
So-
put the pressure on you, but.
But we really want to get going
I
on
know.
this. We're very excited to get back into it, and, you
Going
know,
down memory lane here.
it is down
It
memory
is.
lane. And
Oh.
the building, we just love the building. It's so beautiful.
Well, plus it's just, I mean, you know, when people are at town meeting and they see and things cost money and we have all these buildings and facilities and we need to maintain them, and it's just, for people to say, yeah, I went to 2 plays there last year and we had a Halloween party there that my kids went to, and I'm taking a yoga class there. You know, I think it feels better as a taxpayer to know that I'm in and out of that building a lot, and that's really the way it was before COVID.
Before, yeah, and, you know, if you went back before we started doing that, people were there every year for the town meeting, you know, before
Right.
stuff happened. So people felt connected to the building
Mhm.
in many different kind of ways. The building, when the police department was there, the building was open all the time.
People were
If-
really connected.
If my
That-
kids,
Ba-dum-bum.
if my kids were playing in the center of town, they could walk in, pick up the phone and call home and say, hey, come get me. It was a place that people were actually in and out of all the time. And we'd like to be back there where everybody feels comfortable.
So our last meeting in October is the 21st. Think you can do it, or do you
Sure.
wanna slide to,
You just let us know.
November
You can do it a
4th.
little longer.
I'm gonna be out of town on November 4th, so let's try October 21st.
all right,
And then I would encourage, I don't know, Kristen, you or Sandra or one of you folks, to start claiming your online presences. And so like, you know, the Google business listing for 1870 Town Hall and the Yelp listing for 1870 Town Hall and the MapQuest listing for 1870 Town Hall. Start claiming those so you can update that to both current information, like how you contact for stuff, but also when people leave reviews, you get notified of it. And so you can, you know, reach out to people, you can thank them for good reviews, you can comment back on not so ones, or at least reach out to people to make them more whole.
Okay, Mary's got all that written down.
Sure I do.
Thank you.
Okay,
we thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, next up, the one, the only Fred. Come on up for our department update from the highway.
He said, hold your applause.
Round of applause. He's, were you looking for him? He's kinda hard to spot, not hard to spot in that shirt.
Yeah.
It is the meeting inside the meeting.
Bye, guys.
Bye, thank
very much.
you.
Always a pleasure.
Come on, Fred.
Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. Hi, Fred.
Boy.
Nice to see you.
Yes, it's always nice to see you.
What do you got for us? What's
Uh,
going on?
Kind of a quiet month. So we started doing some guardrail maintenance, roadside mowing, as time allowed. We had a couple of trees on West Street, just down from the garage, we had to remove because one of them had broken, was only being held up by vines. And it looked weird, so every time we went by, we stopped, we looked, it's like, nah, I don't know. So we went up with the bucket truck, and sure enough, it was broken. So we spent a few hours taking some down right there. Finally got the stop lines finished painted, the tarp on the old fire station. The tree truck went out, got its annual testing done, and we started up on Lyman Road. And as of this date, Lyman Road, our project that was lined up is done. We're just carrying the trunk line up to connect to the upper part. That's where we found the rock. Everything else, there was no ledge, everything was manageable, except from last Thursday on. So the rush for that is done. Now it's just as we get days. It won't be the end of this week, being in the next week, we'll have a hammer up there, popping the rocks. And then hopefully we can continue just as effortlessly as we did. I don't know if Kristen's told you the update on the bridge. All right. Yeah,
Well,
so.
She sent out the email this morning, but say it for people who haven't.
Yeah, so if I can remember the timeline, it's been sitting in the hydraulic department in Mass DOT forever because they were backlogged. They did finally review it. They made comments on it, so now it goes back to the engineering company. Our engineer Olivia is going to be out for a week, I believe, but she's going to have her team continue working on it to address the comments. They resubmit it back to MassDOT, and then they have 30 days to act on it. And if everything goes okay, it could be a spring of '25.
Yep.
Spring of '25, yeah. Because right after we get approval, then we can file for the construction phase of the small bridge grant. So hopefully that goes through.
Right. And we already have it designed, and then, one thing I'll have to see is on construction, sometimes Mass DOT has their vendors, so I don't know if they help us with that at all, or we have to put the whole thing out to bid, but
Yeah.
that will be at the top of the priority list to get done.
Yeah, so there might be some light, but I'm not holding my breath. And I actually just reviewed, we get a bridge permit, a bridge inspection done for Bridge Road, and that's showing some pretty significant things. Nothing to fail it. I mean, it has the same grade as it did a year ago, but that's gonna need maintenance, like relatively soon. I did fill out the Chapter 90 survey that they send out every year, and I kind of quietly explained to them that to get all our bridges up to what they would consider an acceptable level, I estimated $3 to $5 million just for our bridges and culverts. And then I filled in what we needed for FY25 road projects. Doesn't mean we'll get any more, but yeah, that's all I have.
Any
Quiet month.
questions for Mr. Fred?
I can't think of anything.
Before you go,
Sure.
I had as you know, I had the unique opportunity to watch you in action for multiple weeks. I was fascinated by
Thought
what
you
you
were
did.
at work.
Well, yeah, my productivity went down a little bit, while you were there, but that's okay. I won't tell. But I'm not a person who's impressed easily, but was impressed by you. I would watch you, unbeknowing to you, with your guys, and I would hear you talk to them. I would watch you show them different things. I would see you make so-and-so get in the truck because that person didn't have experience with the bucket truck and you wanted to show them how to pull up the road, or this one needs a little bit more help on sawing the road in a straight line. And then I would see you actually in the holes that you dug with your big tat-tat-tapper down thing that I was envious of and trying to figure out how to get while you were gone, but, I never left it. You have an opportunity to be one of two types of in management. You can either be a dictator your manager type of person who's pretty much, I know, therefore you will, don't ask me questions, just do. You're a leader, and I saw this. Oh, look, I'm getting weepy. I know, you're like, for God's sakes, what are you crying about now? I know, leave me
I'll let
alone,
you
I'm
run the
having a
jackhammer.
moment. No, I just wanted to thank you, because I know that our town is demanding of highway, you know, fix this, do this, why isn't the bridge open, why isn't the tree cut, why isn't it paved? You do a fantastic job, and I am appreciative of you. Now go away.
Ultimately, no, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
We ultimately know that, but we have to take out aggravation.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes,
So,
probably.
there, I said my piece, I said thank you, now leave, so I stopped crying. But no, seriously, Fred, you're amazing, you're truly a gift to this town, so thank you for letting me, like, hang around and watch you guys and ask questions, because I was just, thank you for not ripping up my flowers and the grass. Have you looked at it?
Popped. We
It's-
needed the rain.
Oh my God, it's awesome, and yes, I'll have more to mow, but it looks fantastic, so thank you for fixing all that.
Excellent. No, I appreciate the feedback, and I don't like the dictatorship. It doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, right.
No one has the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
It's just not what it's about.
Well, I have to say, I kind of feel the same way. I saw you one day as I was driving, and I don't remember what street it was, but you were so, enthralled in what you were doing that I thought, I'm not even gonna wave or say hi or anything, because you were doing your thing, you didn't want to be interrupted, I could tell.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely advantage where you hire people who, as managers, who did the frontline work themselves
Yeah.
at one point.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think there's an advantage to knowing what it's like to be on the other side of that.
Oh, yeah.
And what motivated you when you were there and what didn't, and I think that's a good thing.
Very
Can-
good.
Can I bring in a tangent quickly? How do we get into Legion Hall so we can show Habitat for Humanity Legion Hall so they can start? Because I think how much money the town is willing to invest in sort of getting rid of the mold and what we do next is based on what happens next to it. And Habitat for Humanity has some serious interest in getting that building and renovating it into an affordable housing unit.
Really?
And although there's a bunch of other challenges, because it's a non-conforming lot, and we have to worry about where the septic goes and doesn't pass Title V, but like the start of that is just getting them 5 minutes in the building so they can walk around.
I actually have a key right out in the console of the truck.
Right, there's some mold issues in it, so I mean, I think we might advise people to wear
I was
masks,
gonna
keep the
say,
door open,
do we
make sure
have
they're not in there for too
Mhm.
long, but their level of excitement to that building is,
So, tell me more, because I don't know
Okay.
anything about this.
right, this was gonna be part of later on, but, so the Housing Trust has looked at
Housing Trust,
the Housing
okay.
Trust looked at some title tax land, this was not title tax, this was outright owned by the town, but as a possible project for Habitat for Humanity in this town, we're one of the few towns in Worcester they've not done projects with, so they're excited about trying to find a place in Berlin to build or renovate a building for some more affordable housing in their sort of style, buyer education, that people actually own it. And one of the 4 properties that we looked at the Housing Trust, actually even over the weekend, we physically walked 4 properties. This was one of the more exciting ones. We think it might be project 2 because we think there's another project that is conforming that would need to go through ZBA and planning and us and town meeting and other stuff to get through. But this might be their second project, not far on the heels of our first one, but that, again, they'd love to look at it.
Okay. And I just didn't know from a health and safety perspective, I haven't been in there myself, I didn't know how bad it was, if they could go in, do we have like a
It's-
N95 mask? we could
I
use
have
anyway?
masks at the highway
Yeah.
garage, but it's not to the point where, it's not black mold.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So you're
Okay.
not gonna get sick. If someone has asthma, they may get a little congested.
Okay,
And we could advise them of that ahead of time, and people could decide to bring their own masks and wear them or not.
Right.
Sure.
For looking in the windows, it does have a lot of things that make it kind of exciting, and some of our own goals is a chance to take something that's actually on the town tax rolls and turn into something that's actually a property taxing paying stuff. It's a chance to renovate that building in a way that will have it around for a long time. And I am told, but have not validated, that the other 3 original schools, because there were 4 elementary schools at that time, have already been renovated into housing. And so this would
Wow.
follow the pattern of the other 3. So it has some potential. We're probably a little of cart before horse, because we have to, where's the Legion at, where's historic at, what's, ZBA and Title V,
And
but,
one more thing too.
yeah.
You were away and we
Right.
talked with the Historical Society. And I think in the minutes that we approved tonight, there was something in it about how we need to figure out, storage.
Yep.
And whether it's, that building or another
Yeah.
building, we need to figure out.
Right, because if we remove too
Some
many buildings.
storage,
yeah.
not just for historical,
Right.
but for other groups.
Well, and the genesis of Habitat came out of the last meeting that you were at when we spoke about the facilities study. And you had asked if I'd reach out to the chair of the Housing Trust so she could reach out to Habitat, and apparently they jumped on it, which was kind of exciting. I just wanted to make sure from a health and safety perspective, we were okay before I said yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if,
Perfect.
whenever
Okay.
the date, time, whatever's set, we
We'll
can.
make the right connections to make sure that it's taken care of, but.
Perfect.
Good, thank you.
Welcome.
I'm done.
That's all I have. I'll let you run the jackhammer sometime,
Oh.
but you have to sign a waiver.
I will.
Put her in the bucket truck.
Oh, I want the Mhm.
The tree lists have started, so we'll have a tree list.
Okay.
hearing eventually.
All right, just give a toot and a wave, I'll run out.
All right,
Okay, cool. Thank you, Fred.
thank you.
All right, so we're a bit behind schedule, but that's
This is
okay.
for real.
Yes.
It shouldn't be.
Oh, we're fine. All right, so up next is the Donald Lynch Boulevard rezoning discussion. So a couple weeks ago, Kristen and I had an opportunity to go meet with the mayor. He's not here, is he?
He is not, but the Chiefs have joined us,
Oh,
so I'd
good.
like to promote them if that works for
Bring
you.
him on up. Just to talk about what we can do with the space down at Donald Lynch Boulevard. They had let us know, the mayor of Marlboro and Meredith from their council, city council, let us know that the mall is being sold. So it would almost really be in our best interest to go through the opportunities for what type of business we would like to see here. And I know that the camera can't pick it up, but if you look, this is Berlin. Berlin has about 10 acres that we can do something with. You know, these other two, you've got 9 acres here, you've got 8 acres here. Obviously, we have 10 acres, we have more than 50%. So it's an opportunity for us to go to the table with Marlboro and not to talk about planning, because that's planning board, and not to talk about zoning, but to say, hey, with this space, and I'll turn it for a camera if anyone can see it. This is an opportunity for us to say, hey, we would like to have now we really don't want because as this is sold, you might be able to attract developers. And the way that Meredith was talking to us was that there are developers out there who will just be like, oh, you don't want to do anything, then we'll just come up and buy it, and we won't do anything either. So basically, it's dead space. You know, we have to look at going forward, our commercial growth in town is little to non-existent. And this would be a help tax-wise, because unfortunately, your resident private taxes are gonna go up as commercials come down. So that was the whole point
Right.
behind this.
To be clear, the commercial
this is
rate's not
Berlin,
going
too.
down, but the value of commercial property is going down, thus the taxes they pay go down.
Correct, so
Yes.
if we can put some type of commercial here, and I don't know what type, and that's all that Excel sheet was for, was just to go through and say, I'd love to, not so much, absolutely not. So that we can go back to the table and say, hey, planning, hey, Marlboro, we would like these types of businesses in this area, and that's all it was. It's not a promise to do anything, it's our opportunity to sit down at the table with Marlboro and say, we would like to share with you our opinions on what we want to see for potential growth in Berlin for commercial.
Right, and their study somehow specifically excluded Berlin, because you look at their maps of their zoning, and the line goes through Solomon Pond Mall, because
Right.
we
They
have.
can't include
They
us.
can't
They can't
include us,
include us.
but I thought it was a single zoning overlay. I thought that was the whole purpose of that, was
Apparently not.
a single overlay, so that the towns were in coordination, so there wasn't as much as, like, I could do it on this unit in Solomon Pond Mall, but I can't do it in that unit in Solomon Pond Mall, because the invisible line between Marlboro and Berlin was right there, and I mean, sort of happens at Highland Commons now, is that, you know, Berlin says we hate drive-throughs, therefore the drive-through is 10 feet off of or it's probably a little bit more than that, but it's not far, and all the problems that a drive-through might be causing in town, we still get, but all the
Revenue we
meals
miss.
tax that Panera is bringing in, we get zero of. It's Panera, right?
Yes,
It's
Panera and also Starbucks.
Right,
Yep.
right. And so all that revenue that comes from both of those, and it has to be substantial,
It is.
goes to Hudson and not us, because the town wouldn't allow drive-throughs in that type of area, you
Correct.
know?
I mean, that's what the people want.
It's what people want. It got rejected at town meeting several times in several different ways.
Yes.
It was quite clear.
Correct. But, you know,
I
we,
think are we a little preliminary on this, though?
no.
I think we are, because I really think planning does need to decide what they're doing, and then we need to have a conversation with them.
I don't understand why, or why wouldn't we be able to do in tandem? These are just our ideas of what we would
Right, so
want,
you're
not
proposing
want.
some ideas that
Do you
we would
know
send to
what's
planning.
required for each different thing on this list, for, as far as zoning?
And no, because I'm not a zoning person, I
That's
don't
right.
play one, so again, the exercise here was to go through and say, yes, I'm in favor of trailer mobile homes, no, I am not, maybe. That's it, because I can tell you that planning is also going to go through this exercise as well. So wouldn't it be nice if we were able to provide them with a report that said, hey, here's what the select board's thinking, hey, look, it lines up with planning, or geez, planning, you really want trailer mobile homes, could you come in and tell us why when we don't want it? That's all this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, they could shed some light on it for us, so that we could make a decision. You can't just say, yeah, I like that, no, I don't like that, you know, you have to have more background, you have to know, you know,
God,
I'm
it's
not gonna do all
140
this
feet long.
zoning stuff for that, if that's what we have to do.
Scott, your opinion?
The column C is what Marlboro has proposed, or is column C what Berlin already has?
Column C is
That
just,
was the first thing I couldn't follow.
is the proposed overlay.
Which they
So-
have now passed, by the
Right.
way.
What Marlboro's have, so that for us, in some respects, if we did anything different than column C, it would definitely cause some consternation, because again, you could have something that could go in one and not the other spot.
Correct, and that's why.
I mean, we might want to do something different than column C somewhere, but
Right.
it could be that our conversation is more like, is there anything in column C that we would like to see differently in Berlin?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they've asked us to do.
Right.
And,
Mhm.
and they asked us, dating back to March,
Mhm.
to do this exercise.
Right.
And
They didn't
so-
ask us, they asked planning.
Correct, but we haven't received anything from planning. So we had another meeting, and they
Mhm.
recommended that perhaps the select board go through this and make some recommendations to planning, and we have a joint meeting.
Mhm.
I would like to have the joint meeting.
Yeah, because I would love to know more what yes and SP and,
Yeah.
and green and yellow and red mean in column C before I had commentary about whether or not I agreed with column C or not.
Well, SP is just special permit, and Y is yes, that it's approved for that, and that's why I
Right.
took out all the ends. I didn't take them out, I hid them, so that no one would think that I was slanting this worksheet for just me. I just hid them, so if you have
Right,
a
but that-
space between 64 and 71, obviously you can unhide
Yeah.
65 to 70.
And so the ends would be things that Marlboro does not want done in that
Correct.
district. Because there could be some of those that we do want in those districts, although, again, I imagine that Marlboro, who has a full-time planning person, other stuff, that in some respects, I sometimes defer to experts and.
That's
and,
how I
uh,
feel.
Right.
uh,
And they said they'd be happy to, come in if it's helpful at all. They were really, willing to try to work with us, because they recognize that the more we know what we can do and what we can't do, and it needs to be specific, and if there are zoning changes, I'd like us to be able to bring something to town meeting. It also dovetails nicely with a grant that the
Mhm.
planning
Right.
board has applied for some zoning rewrites, that hopefully we'll hear about next month. We were supposed to hear about this month, but that's
I mean,
over.
I think it's appropriate to bring it here, and that the planning commission hasn't taken action yet, that they've been asked for several months. I would almost like to try to do it, though, I would try to schedule a joint select board planning just to talk about this, just like we just had with 1870 Town Hall. And if they choose not to attend, they choose not to attend, but that,
Well, I mean, I think
that
it might be
they have some
even
better
better to-
experts that are more, in the, as you point out, more in the nuance
Yeah.
of some of the stuff that I don't get. I mean, some of these are pretty obvious. I don't want necessarily trailer homes at the Sullivan
Do
Pond
they even have
Mall.
a
but-
reason that we just don't know?
Right.
for why they haven't answered. That's what I'd like to know. There may be a reason that we're
Right.
not even aware of.
Well, and I don't know, like, we're in this list, like, we had the neighbors who are concerned about all those special permits for things in parking lots, and how it might be more overt about whether or not we allow them, don't allow them. My guess is special permits, is they've come here for special permits on all of them, but, that, you know, what we would allow to do or not do.
I think the idea is to foster collaboration between the select board and the planning board, because this is something that, you know, they've been talking about for several years before Marlboro passed the plan. And they do have a new mayor who's very much wanting to work with Berlin. And I think that Berlin needs to get our ducks in a row in terms of what do we want, so that we can work with Marlboro. And if there are uses that are a no on our side, that's okay too. They certainly weren't saying, you know, you have to do everything we're doing. They want to know where the similarities are and where the differences are.
And wouldn't we want to know more about our planning board and how they feel about all this before we start working with Marlboro? That seems kind of silly.
I also
I mean,
think that.
you wanna be on the same page with your own town.
Yes, but to me, at the same time, you know, planning, as Kristen has pointed out, has had multiple opportunities in multiple months to do something on this.
Well, let's
And
find
they are
out
not.
why. Let's find out why. I'll go ask them.
All right.
I have no problem asking
I
them.
also think, I mean, the land has been, the mall has been sold several times over the last several years.
Right.
Correct.
And so this is not like the first sale in a couple of decades, and I think anyone buying it is going to assume they can work with the local municipalities to
Right.
help things. And I think a developer with a reasonable proposal, you know, is likely to find a reasonable response from the town of Berlin. I don't have off the top of my head examples of things that I definitely would support and definitely not support. Because again, I'm not a planning person, there's people who are more into the weeds of these things. I agree that, I mean, Sears is the big property in our footprint that is currently empty and is not paying really any appreciable taxes, and getting that developed into something bigger or more open, whether it be, you know, something on this list, you know, retail or non-retail, you know, office space or housing or light industrial, or what, one of the lines here is coffee roastery. You know, imagine if we had a big coffee roastery in the town.
I saw that. That was neat.
First you have to have the beans.
Yeah, I know. And so, again, I would really like to have a joint meeting, but I think a joint meeting would also force their hand on, like, why haven't you talked about it?
Right.
Planning. And, you know, I wouldn't drag this out for months. I would try the next meeting or two,
Okay.
giving them some reasonable stuff.
We've tried. We've
yeah.
tried, and they have pushed back
Well,
to say no, and have pushed
Well,
back
I'll
again
make a
to
phone
say
call.
no.
I'll make a phone call and
Yeah.
find out what's going on if I can.
No, I think the planning board owes, if planning board is going to tell us why they're dragging their feet, then they need to come before the board and before
Yeah.
everybody to tell us why.
Right, and I just think there needs to be more communication,
Yes.
Because, you know, we did let them know we were gonna speak about this tonight, and they were welcome, you know, to attend, and we were hoping to have a joint meeting in the future, because I didn't want anyone to be blindsided by any means.
Right.
And they wanted to reach out and have a meeting with Marlboro, which is great, but I know those meetings have been going on, and we haven't been hearing
Right.
that feedback. And I think the overlay district is kind of a stumbling point, because a multi-jurisdictional overlay district is really a challenge in this day and age, because as much as, you know, Marlboro can't tell us what to do, we can't tell them what to do either. So I think, you know, coordinating with them is really our best option to make sure we get the highest and best use for the redevelopment for the mall. And I think that's really where we're at, because we had millions and millions of dollars in devaluation for the mall, which had a huge impact on folks' taxes rather. And I have our town assessor saying she's working on the reval right now, and she is most likely gonna have to recommend a single tax rate in FY '27, because commercial has been going so much down in terms of valuation. So, I just think, I wanna make sure we keep the conversation going. And as the chief executive officers of the town, you have a right to be part of that conversation. And I just wanna make sure, you know, because it does have an impact on so many residents in the town.
I do, I agree, but I really think that you've gotta do it the right way.
Yep.
And, you know, going to Marlboro first with an answer is not going to be looked at very Heidi.
Oh, no, we wanna go to the
weren't going-
planning
By our,
board.
we
bar-
weren't-
by our Berlin counterparts.
But we weren't going to Marlboro first. This was an opportunity for us to go through this checklist, come back and say what we liked, kinda liked, didn't like, and then
Yeah, I
work with
understand.
planning. So Marlboro is not in this
But then somebody
conversation.
brought up the fact that we could, just go straight to Marlboro.
Absolutely not.
No, no,
Or that the mayor could come to us and answer questions,
Nope.
which
No.
I'd
Nope.
rather find out answers to questions
Yeah.
from our counterparts.
Yeah, no, that was never said, and I mean, and I
I
know.
more meant, that was me, I'm sorry, and I more meant that if we had questions about their zoning in particular and what things meant, that they would, or if they could help,
Well,
they
if we're
just
gonna have a
offered their
group
help.
meeting, though, we should have it with our counterparts rather than Marlboro's.
I mean, I know at one point that supposedly there was a sticking point that Marlboro said that they only wanted to put houses back there, lots of houses. But we asked the mayor and Meredith specifically, and they were like, no, because more houses to them means more infrastructure, it means more police, it means more fire. They're already looking for a space for a new firehouse because they don't have it. There's an impact to their schools, so however that story of, oh, only Marlboro wants houses back there
No, I
is,
thought-
is not a true statement.
I
You know,
thought
I
at
just
one
wanna
point the
put that
mall
out
was
there.
exploring housing at that site
They-
because.
Yeah, they were, and there is a good chunk of that site on the Berlin side, so, coordinating too in terms of, what would make sense from a public safety perspective, and, I think that that's why the chiefs are interested as well in wanting to know what's gonna happen, because, they wanna know what the impact's gonna be on them as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to kind of sort of giddy up on this,
Yep.
because I know that, there was an article in the Community Advocate, and you know how I like to borrow things from other town, there's bioprocessing firms to lease space. So there are opportunities for businesses to come out and to sit there, but if we wait and there's an opportunity that opens and we're not doing anything and the opportunity is there, guess where they're going, a la Panera and Starbucks? They're going over here, so I wanna move on this has been stagnant, so.
Doesn't mean you lose out,
No, and some of those are
Some
doable
other
now.
opportunity might come up later,
Maybe,
Right.
but just saying that there
You
are
never
other.
know.
I would like to suggest that we each try to fill out the, because there's 143 lines if you include the no's. And so I would almost like each one of us to try to fill it out and get it over to Kristen so she can highlight where we might have agreements and disagreements. So we spend our time at meetings only working on the things where we have disagreements and schedule the joint meeting with the planning board. Because again, I'd like to have that discussion, but I'd like it, again.
I'd like to have that
I-
after.
Well, I'd ideally have the planning commission do this too, because again,
Yeah.
over 143 lines, 8 of us in the room, this could take days.
Let
And so
me
I'd
t-
like
let
us
me
to
try and
focus
call
down
the chair
to just
of
the areas where we
planning.
might disagree. Sure.
I did unfortunately I was trying to compile in advance, and unfortunately, town council did let me know that even if it's not discussed amongst you, if I get your opinions in advance and compile them, it's considered an open meeting law violation, because it has to be discussed at the meeting. You can't have those opinions in writing in advance of the meeting. So
Well, I wouldn't see it in advance of the meeting. I think we're giving it to you so you can help us guide the conversation. So you can say, you folks agree on these 18, here's the 16. Because again, otherwise, we're going down 143
Right.
lines, one by one, at 5 minutes a line is what, 8 hours, 10 hours worth of work?
Why
Like,
would
I
we
don't want to do that.
Without enough information, though?
What, even if we had the information, how would we do it? So assume we
I don't
have
know that
all the
we would.
information possible.
I think I might, like you said before, move to let the other group who knows more than we do give their opinion.
Well, but even planning board at 5 minutes a line for 143 line is 10 hours worth of work, which I can't imagine they would ever do. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to get us to
Right.
not have 10 hours of conversation on something where we're probably 95% in agreement on.
And as was I, and I can look into it a little further and see if there's another way. I kind of kicked this around a lot, and the answer was no, you have to do it in
Well-
a meeting, but.
All right,
Why
so
are we
then everybody,
intent upon us doing this, though? I mean, this is not part of what we know about.
Do you agree that the town should actually participate in this conversation with Marlboro?
First, I think we need to have a conversation with our
Well,
counterparts.
So macro level, should someone in the town of Berlin have a conversation with the town of Marlboro about this?
Not right now.
At some point in the life of this
Yes.
planet, should someone in the town of Berlin have a conversation with
Yes.
the town of Berlin? If the planning commission chooses not to do that, should we take the lead and make it happen?
Well, we could, but
Okay.
let's find out for sure.
Sure,
why
I'm
it
fine with
is
that. I'm
they're-
just,
Yeah,
I am
that's it.
trying to start the conversation about if the group that should take this lead does not do that. As Peg has pointed out, they haven't been in a
So
while.
far,
So
correct.
far. So I want to start preparing ourselves so that when we've decided that the planning commission has had enough time to do this and they're choosing not to for some reason,
Mhm.
you know, how we to start proceeding so that we don't delay this thing that's already been delayed. They started in March, 6 months, you know, how do we make sure it's not delayed another 6 months before this conversation happens? Because I agree with Peg on, this really should be something that is happening, it should not have lasted this long, and it's a problem that's happened this long, and how do we
Well,
make
let's
sure that?
find
it
out
happens?
what the
Yeah.
problem is.
And I've checked in a few times to say, hey, you
Mhm.
know, have you
And then
guys
push
forwarded
back.
any feedback to Marlboro? And it was, well, we're generally in agreement with everything but the housing density or the housing amount, but nothing has been sent over. And I think that's where
Right.
my concern lies, because I'm looking at the big picture of how does this impact the residents? And I want us to move it forward. And I do want to work with planning board. I can't speak to what happened before, you know, this administration came on board in Marlboro, but they are very willing to work with us. So I think, you know, whatever happened in the past, I don't know, but I think that we have a real opportunity here to get on the same page and attract some great development on both sides of the mall, and I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you know, going back with Scott, to me, I may not know the specifics, but when I look down this list and I see private club, nonprofit, do I really want that in Berlin? That, for, you know, probably no. So, you know, but would I love to see something else on this list be a yes? Yeah, I can go down without having the information, because if I check off things that are a yes, and they confirm my understanding, then I've made, in my mind, my right decision, but I honestly just can't understand.
Does the color coding mean anything in those columns?
I went back and I looked, and the problem is that because this has been
Code.
approved,
The code is here somewhere in my papers.
you know, it has been approved by them, so even we're working with a wee bit of
Yep.
outdated information.
Yep. Right, because I don't understand sadly, Berlin zoning, because like,
Must have left it
our,
at home.
our definition of some of these might not be the same as, I don't know, is there a state definition of all these categories? or-
Well, and that's where I was trying not to get into the zoning component of it and more look at the uses, because absolutely, planning board is gonna have to look at what would require a special permit, what could be by right, and what's definitely a no. I think their goal, if I understand it correctly, was trying to expand what they could and what made sense there, so that developers would say, yes, you know,
Yep.
it's broader in terms of the uses that can be there. And I do think we do have some slightly more restrictive zoning in certain areas that it would potentially behoove us to look at modifying in specific zones
Right.
in order to attract some more commercial development.
Right,
So some of the colors, they talk about core area, they talk about outer area,
Right.
that's all in
Yep.
the PDF, so you just really have to go
SP is a
through.
special
Yeah, that's,
permit,
because
right?
they're doing a whole corridor.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so it's for all of Donald Lynch Boulevard, so,
And why
just
is
the area
why
that we
in
generally
the
show them
N-
all.
I-
yes or no?
exactly.
Yes,
Um,
yes, they approve
yeah.
it, no, they don't.
No,
For
they
the
don't.
Yes,
rest.
it
Audio
falls
again.
in the right zoning,
Yes,
and no, it doesn't,
And-
or
and then-
special permits needed.
Right.
correct.
And then if we ended up with conversations with Marlboro, I'd love to have more conversations with them about sort of, because we have some commercial property in Berlin, that the road to it is through Marlboro. And we had some uses that the town was trying to get into that mall that Marlboro said no to, because
Correct.
they somehow decided their zoning rules on the road use
Yes.
didn't match
Yep.
the thing, and I found that
Oh, interesting.
previous
Bizarre.
administration, but
That
found that
was-
insulting, like, okay, Berlin, it matches all the Berlin rules, but because
That was
the
the marijuana
use,
facility.
Yes,
yeah.
on Donald Lynch
And
Boulevard.
there was another one over there that they said, you know,
It
they
was
didn't
in
really
the
want to.
back road behind
Right.
DCU
Yeah,
or
yeah, it's
something.
the back, it's the building behind DCU that is, again, pays property taxes in Berlin, and we'd like to get the best possible use out of it, so that it pays, you know, the best possible taxes,
And they
and
said that, yes, that it didn't,
didn't meet their uses for the road.
right.
So if you also look at
Which is a
page
private road, not a public
49,
road.
a yellow means like a less investment potential. So
Right.
all the information that you're wondering what the color coding is on the
Right.
Excel spreadsheet, if you go through the presentation,
Okay.
It's in there, you just have to look
I
and
didn't
find it.
make the connection between the
Mhm.
presentation and the spreadsheet. I
Yep.
scanned the presentation, but it's
Yeah,
many
it's
pages.
116 pages.
It's
Right,
huge and
it's
long,
small
but
font, but it's a bunch of pictures too, and.
It's a bunch of
I
pictures.
read some of the other
Yeah,
stuff, and there was
I
some neat
flipped
stuff in
through
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
so that's what I was hoping to do.
One of, one of the things is that, I mean, I think we owe it to the people in Berlin to talk with them first. This could come back to bite us if you don't. And that's all I'm saying.
I don't think it will come back to bite us, but I think that we need to light a fire and get this thing going, because it's been going on too long. And I, for one, as a resident of this town, do not want to not have a seat at the table with Marlboro when it comes to what can be the use of this area, when there's some really good ones on
That
this.
may be part of the reason why they've not answered, because they're not, what they wanna do or don't wanna do isn't what Marlboro wants. So maybe that's it.
So
We don't
what
know.
action
So
is,
let's just-
so
let's
what
just
action
find
is
out.
no action? If I don't agree with you, then I'm not even gonna discuss it or put it on an agenda. I'm just gonna, if
We-
I
we
don't see it, it
don't
doesn't
know.
exist.
We don't know, so let's find out.
Fine, Kristen, can you please email the head and demand, for lack of a better word, that they come to, an upcoming meeting?
I like to think that's not mutually
No.
exclusive of Kristen, of Chris, reaching out as well to the committee.
Yeah, I would just, let me talk to a couple of people. Hopefully I'll have a chance to get a hold of someone, and I can talk to you on, next Monday.
But my concern is that if you talk to one, they're gonna give you their spin. If you talk to another, they give another spin. You talk to another,
What's
you
the
get a third
difference?
spin.
I don't care what spin it is, I'd just like to know, like you said, what's holding it up?
Then get them all here.
I already suggested that. It didn't sound like you were gonna go for it.
No, we already did, we've already tried multiple times and they have
Well,
rejected.
I haven't.
Our town administrator, who oversees the boards, did. So if they're
Well-
rejecting her request, it's not much to say.
Well, all I
Planning
wanna know
Commission,
is
to be
why.
clear, Planning Commission is an independent body that does not,
Agreed.
is not overseen
Right.
by the
Agreed,
town
right.
administrator,
This is true.
Or if they
or
won't.
officially the select board.
Correct.
Right.
Or, here's Plan B. They decline our meeting, we ask to be on their agenda.
Okay.
Done.
And I will say one thing, I think part of my job is to try to coordinate, especially boards and committees, to work together, because I think if you operate in a vacuum, and I think that pre-town administrator, there have been some things that have operated in a vacuum, that's when you're not making the best decision for the town. So I really am just trying to promote that coordination. That's really where I'm at, and make sure everyone's working together and we're swimming in the same direction, so that way we're not sending mixed messages. I don't want us to do that. I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Right.
Do the chiefs have anything that they would like to add? I mean, they're here and they came, well, they're here. I just want to give them an opportunity if they have anything to say that they can.
They can raise their hand.
And they're gone. No, they're
Nope,
on
they're here.
panels.
I know Chief Mike actually did watch the Marlboro hearing, and we did have a discussion about it today, because obviously always have a concern from a public safety perspective when you're looking at redevelopment. But you both are muted if you're trying to talk.
All right, doesn't look like they're
Oh,
going.
he's coming.
Oh,
No, I was waiting to see if Chief Sharner wanted to speak or not. But no, I was just here just from a public safety standpoint in case there were specific questions or anything that came up in regards to the mall and the revitalization project, or however that's classified down there. And as Kristen said, I was present. I did watch the meeting that Marlboro had probably about 6 or 8 months ago, just to keep myself up to speed on it and to see where it was going.
all right, thanks, Chief Mike. All right, nothing from Eric, so we move on.
I do have a question, for Eric, not Eric, I'm sorry.
Mike.
The fire chief, Mike. Mike, the town of Berlin is not going to, the mall Solomon Pond Mall when there is a fire call. Are we? I don't believe we are.
Yes, we go for fire calls for alarm activations in the building, or if there are odors in the building or anything like that. We don't respond there for medical calls.
Okay, all right. Has that changed?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's always been that way, that we send the ladder truck as part of the response plan down there for fire calls. And I believe the medical calls were given to the city of Marlboro back when the mall was first built.
Okay, I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was fire calls that we did not go to, and medical calls perhaps we did if it was on the Berlin side.
No, it's not. It sounds like that was something, and I think back then there was the separation. You had the fire department and the EMS department that were run by
Yes.
two different chiefs. And I know currently I've been in discussions. I've talked to the Marlboro Fire Chief and the Hudson Fire Chief just about trying to alleviate some of the BLS call responses to kind of put the ALS trucks in service more often, so they're not tied up on BLS calls, just because we seem to have that shortage of paramedics that we talked about. And that was one of the areas that we looked at, is trying to use Berlin a little bit more often for the BLS calls, so that we know that way the ALS truck stays in service more often.
That's a good point. Thanks, Mike.
Not a problem.
Okay, so you want to put this on the agenda for next week again?
I can do that.
We can do that. All right, moving on. TA report. Kristen, you're up.
Okay, as you may have noticed, they are growing. There is a lot going on right now. Sorry, let me just get back to the report. I was in the ARPA spreadsheet. And I will try to go through this quickly for the public, since you all have it in front of you. FY26 budget and special town meeting. FinCom will hold their second budget meeting on October 2nd to finalize the calendar and work on the budget packet that goes out to everyone. FinCom meetings are Wednesday at 7:30, and they are hybrid now. So go on MyTownGov, and you will be able to get the link for those meetings. So capital request forms and employee performance appraisals have been sent out. And the town clerk has confirmed December 9th as the preferred date for winter special town meeting. January for her gets too much into the census, and that doesn't work well, so nix that idea. Riverbridge, the Select Board and Conservation Commission held a joint meeting on September 18th to discuss modifying the CR on River Run Parcel 6B to allow for other parties beyond the owner of the property, which will be us, to use water from the wells. And the Conservation Commission did vote unanimously to approve this request, but that is not the end of the process, unfortunately. Next town meeting, and then the state EEA, or Energy and Environmental Affairs Office, must approve the request. And it could come under what's known as Article 97 and take up to 2 years to approve. So therefore, the purchase date must be moved out, which unfortunately will require a fifth modification just to push out the purchase of the property. The Sennies have confirmed they're amenable to this request, and I'm recommending we put it on the winter special town meeting warrant so we can start that land acquisition process as soon as possible. On a note of good news, we are in compliance with the EPA and Mass DEP with regard to stormwater. The waiver that was issued to the town remains in place. And when there is a new MS4 permit issued, there will be an opportunity for the town to apply for coverage or for a waiver, depending on the new map information that comes out at that time. So we were unsure because the only paperwork we found was from 2003, and I wasn't going to go on 20-year-old paperwork. But Mass DEP did help us in getting that confirmation from EPA. So that is a big relief. We don't have to spend ARPA money right now on stormwater compliance. I will go to ARPA when we get to that item. Energy upgrades, we will be having our first quarterly meeting of the free community solutions program with NGrid that we signed on to tomorrow night, starting at 4:30, going to probably about 6:30, I would say, here at the town offices if folks are interested in joining. The library will be officially taking over the digital literacy grant and has submitted a change request to the state to add some additional programming and equipment. We're still pending approval on that, and then I'll be able to get you information as to what's been approved and what they can do. But they were really open. They basically said, spend the money to improve digital literacy amongst seniors. And so whatever you want to suggest. So there was some equipment, classes, training, different things. Victoria had a lot of ideas. We already talked about South Street Bridge. Personnel, the Personnel Committee met on the 18th and approved the position descriptions for the part-time 24-hour per week COA director and part-time per diem recreation program counselors. Those positions have both been posted. We are in the process of setting up interviews for the building maintenance operator and the rec director positions. And Personnel Committee will meet again in October to discuss the FY26 COLA and market rate increases, along with a request from the town clerk to create a temporary part-time administrative assistant to the town clerk position. And those are the big ones, so I'll leave it to any questions you may have.
I have one, but I'll go last.
Do we have a sense of when we're gonna have to open and close warrants for a September 9th town meeting, or December 9th town meeting?
Yes, on
Right.
October 7th agenda, no, I'm sorry, isn't it on this evening, or did I lose my? Yes, so asking you this evening to set the date, time, and location for a special town meeting, so that would open the warrant on the October 7th meeting, and then I haven't mapped out exactly when we would have to close it, but I'll have that for you at the next meeting.
So
I wanted to set the date
I
first
think we
before
already
we opened
voted
it.
the
Yeah,
December
because I
9th.
thought December 9th already was the date we voted on.
Yes, we did vote on
No.
that already.
No, we talked about it, but we weren't sure with holidays, so you were waiting to hear from Eloise and.
I thought we voted like in
No,
July.
that was after we voted it.
I thought we voted tentatively on it, but we need to do, I thought a
Definitive.
formal, like, time, location, date, but I
Sure.
could be.
If we need another one, we need another one. I thought we did this in like July.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who has that memory. At least you and I will have the same false memory.
No, it may not. I may have the false memory.
Did the-
Kristen, I just had one question for you on the temporary part-time administrative assistant to the town clerk.
Yes.
I'm gonna assume that was not in their budget,
No.
that they could not foresee it, so how is this position getting paid for?
So there was some staff coverage that was needed, that we're looking at retroactively potentially. That I would recommend asking the FinCom for a reserve fund transfer. We can't do anything without having a position there. And then we do have some HR funding that we set aside this year that requires a vote of the select board and the FinCom to utilize. If the town clerk is wanting to do this going forward, my recommendation would be to have that funding be requested and see what the will of the FinCom and the select board are.
Has the clerk's office been looking at automation that would potentially make the amount of work necessary to get tasks done less?
I mean, in terms of like the voting machines and the poll pads, I think they are. I can't speak to specific
Right.
other software, but it seems like they are trying to move in that direction. It's just the early voting and the burden that the state is putting on without funding anything is really causing a lot of issues.
The town clerk's office is looking very nice.
It is. I have to
Yeah.
say many thanks to Lisa Wysocki and other volunteers who have assisted her, and James, and cleaning up the office and reorganizing a little bit. So, yeah.
There's sort of my hope that some of that cleaning and organizing would result in efficiencies that would mean they wouldn't necessarily need additional staffing.
I would let the town clerk speak to that, but I can certainly bring that to her attention.
So potentially even for a reserve fund transfer type thing, even, because I'd like to do it before someone is hired, is potentially have the clerk come here and explain to us sort of the need for it and why the extra hours and why it's temporary and not permanent, and sort of
Is
what
the-
the staffing plan is for that office going forward.
Is the current second employee, is he still working the same number of hours as he always was, or is it less now?
Well, part of the reason we're in this issue is he did pick up some extra hours during, when we had some staffing leave. But he is still at, I believe it's 12 hours per week, somewhere between 10 and 12, depending on the week.
And it's never been higher and then went back down?
Oh, okay, June would know,
No,
I'm not
okay.
sure. But that, my understanding is the employee in that position has other responsibilities and
That's
would not
what I
be
was-
interested in
that's what I was thinking
increasing
too.
his hours.
So then really, this is sitting, or will sit, on personnel's list to talk about, job description before any discussion is made with FinCom or us regarding funding?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a draft job description out there. I did look at where I thought it should fall on the class and comp plan, and that is all back with the town clerk for her review.
So are we thinking early November to put this on our agenda, or end of the month?
I'm hoping it can go to personnel. I think it's the 18th that they're meeting. I keep getting that date wrong. Whatever the meeting in October is, the first one that they're meeting. And so we could probably put that on
Or end of
at our
October.
November meeting, the 1st November.
Okay. All right, yeah, personnel, September 18th, so.
No, the October one, that was maybe the 20
Oh, sorry.
something.
Oh, there's not, oh, there isn't a meeting that's scheduled for personnel.
Yeah, it's a little ways out. I think we talked at the last meeting about a couple dates. Okay, there was another date I think we talked about so we could get the COLA set in advance. I'll reach out.
All right, so November.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll just put a placeholder for November. Okay. Any other questions, Kristen?
No.
All right, let's move along. Next up on the agenda is, back to you, Kristen, to talk about the FY '25 Town Administrator Goals.
Okay, so didn't want to finalize this, obviously, with Scott, you not being here. So what I did put in the drive was where we were at based on the last discussion that Chris and Scott had. Chris and Peg had, and we had whittled it down a bit. I'm just pulling that up. Trying to do triple duty tonight here. So the one thing that's good is 2 can come off, because 2 are done, and that would be the payroll leave accrual project and internet at the transfer station. Biweekly pay rollout is in process, so that is one that is essentially done. And then one that we couldn't discuss, obviously, Scott, without you being here, was the plan to redesign the employee reporting so everything goes through the TA's office.
Well, your list has certainly whittled down from whence you started.
It has. We did a lot in '24 especially. That was a very, very big year.
And a lot of these are close to, because when you talk about the Brown Barn, that's very close to being done.
That's when I have to advertise and do
yeah.
the same thing for the painting in the 1870, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the same with the public safety, that's close, playground, that's close, I mean,
Yeah,
website,
that one's
you know,
gotta be bid.
updates, I mean, they're all fairly close, I don't think there's anything in here probably besides the soil importation bylaws that has been kicked down the road 85 times with no resolution.
That is the last one from the list that Margaret left me.
Yeah.
That's like the lone holdout.
Although there are nebulous potential full of pitfalls like opera projects.
I know.
Yeah, that's.
Which is a one line that covers a large chunk of sins. And facilities plan implementation, which is the same sort of large. I mean, I think those are things as well. As I said over email, because I have been away, the develop a plan to redesign employees reporting going through the TA was something that both Margaret and you have expressed as a problem that I think we've seen in a couple of areas, that we have a bunch of independent boards in town, we have a chunk of employees that don't report through Margaret, and committees that officially can do their own hiring, and my worry is the liability of some of that things is that you could have a committee that decided to fire someone for illegal reasons, that would cost the town significant money because we'd lose those lawsuits, or would advertise a position in a way that would be problematic. And I think this is, again, I think this is a multi-year, as you pointed out, and is true, is this is a very messy thing that will take coordination of a lot of boards and figure out wording. And I think, the journey of 1,000 miles has to start with a few steps. And so even if we figured out where this would look at the end, is how do you word it? How do you tell, I'm picking on one, but, for no particular, but, the assessor's office, the staffing in the assessor's office needs some very particular skills that they probably know a better sense of what a good person is, and not more than potentially a town administrator. But, again, the hiring has to go through the town administrator. When we had problems at the Board of Health and the transfer station, they already turned to the town administrator for support. So let's make this more, and then you write into it that, like, the town administrator will make sure that the, Board of Health has X number of hours to cover these, that assessor's office gets 20 hours, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but 20 hours a week of someone who has some of these skills. You have to find a way to write it, but it's bylaw changes to do that. And there'll be 1,000 people with 100,000 different opinions on it.
Yeah, and as Kristen pointed out, I'm gonna assume, Kristen, those are your notes,
Yes.
requires an amendment
Yep.
to the TA bylaw, vote of town meeting, approval of special legislation, and seeing how quickly our legislature, love them dearly, move at a snail's pace. Even if we voted to agree with that, it could truly be on here, and none of us are still
Well,
here as a board,
Which,
so,
which is, I
mean,
would think, is the goal is to figure out the plan. I don't think the
Okay.
goal is to actually implement this. I can't imagine this is implemented in, I'm the least of the three of us up. I have the longest term here. In my remaining term, I can't imagine this would
That
be
this would be
completed
done.
there.
Yeah.
But I think to start outlining some of the bylaws, where some of what are the bylaw changes, I don't even think we need the exact wording even at this point, this is what it would look like. And this is where some of the opposition is. And talk to our legislator about it, talk to our lawyers about it, talk to some of the other commissions about
Might
it.
just be a call to town council.
Right.
Yeah,
That
and-
starts figuring out how do other towns do it? What stops a rogue, the committee to beautify roads that has a full-time staff person to say, we're fired because you wore jeans to the office and I don't like jeans, and therefore, or someone writing an ad that says, this gender should not apply for this job, or, I work for a big company, and we sometimes things fall through, and I just can't imagine independent boards. I think there's a chance that something horrible could happen that could cost the town a chunk of money. We've seen it in other towns, that I'd like to stop before it becomes a problem, or at least start the thinking that we have a solution before it becomes a problem.
And even the second line,
Yep.
under notes, another possible option would be to have boards with oversight of employees transfer the HR authority
Right.
to the TA.
Yep.
That
Yep.
could be, what language could you use for that?
Right.
that
Well, and it would
the-
only be
Right.
a policy, not a bylaw. So that one makes me a little nervous, only because it would be still, we could draft up some
Yep.
language. And I can tell you, Margaret did a great job at already starting to transition that, in terms of, we do the job descriptions, job ads, job postings, and through our office, and we've done that for transfer station and for assessor's office. And I actually have had the conversations with the chairs of both of those boards already about, let me take that burden off of you, because also that's scary for them. I
Right.
mean, it's scary for me, scary for them. I get it. But maybe continuing those conversations, and I would almost like to see a potential rewrite of the TA bylaw,
Yep.
though, because that really codifies it.
Yep.
It's one thing
Yeah.
to just talk about
I just
it,
know how
but
long it takes.
it does.
Yeah, it does. And again, I think the goal
Maybe
is.
it's something that each group that has that issue
Mhm.
could agree and sign something to say, yeah, we agree, Kristen can handle it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's the plan,
My
not
example's
the
always been sort of
implementation.
someone overtly causing problems. You're right, some of these volunteer committees, they don't want to cause a lawsuit or a problem, but inadvertently
inadvertently
do something.
step on it, right.
Inadvertently
Yes.
do something wrong, which is,
Right.
I think, a bigger risk,
Mhm.
because
Well, it should be
I think
an
all the volunteers are
understanding.
great, hardworking people
Yeah,
who always have good
absolutely.
intents.
But,
Uh, yep.
if, even having you talk with them and giving them the understanding of
Right.
how it could turn into,
Right, and so.
chaos.
I'm fine with writing this in a way that is, like, the plan for the coming year is to understand options, or look at
Mm-hmm.
what things are out there. Again, I don't expect this to be done in the fiscal year, but you've gotta start somewhere.
Yep.
Right, because you may get to the point where you're writing out and all of a sudden you're on step 832 and realize, nope,
Yep,
for
Right.
that, so.
And I think the question just arose, and the reason we wanted to have the conversation was, if my, performance is dependent on whether town meeting passes a bylaw. Obviously,
yeah.
that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
really helpful to have that clarified.
And then I asked to add, and maybe it was rejected already, but that we just got the grant as a town for the rail trail, and sort of, I imagine that's gonna require some sort of finessing, and is one of those things that leaving it to just one committee to
person,
take the
correct.
lead.
Yeah.
And they should take the lead, but there should be other folks involved to make sure that it moves forward.
So we did discuss that, and I thought the consensus at that time was to leave it to the Conservation Commission, but I see the merit, though, in having coordination, especially as we were just talking about this.
Well, I mean, didn't we say that, if they need something, you were going to help them?
I was willing to
Well,
continue to provide the
yes.
background support.
Yes.
And this list is not everything you're doing day to day. There's still
Right.
always coordination of committees, which you talked about, and supporting
Right.
some of the activities. And so I'll, at least for the current year, because I think the current project is not giant or complicated. It's not,
No.
coordinating multi-million-dollar grants and other stuff like that.
And I've helped them get the grant application
Yep.
going and
Yep.
review the project scope from VHB, and, happy to continue to work that way. I think that would be fine.
Yeah.
Do you see anything on this list, Kristen, that you're looking at and it's, causing you to break out into hives and go into a great deal of panic? I mean, is there anything on here that we're asking you to do as a goal that is truly, is not a SMART goal, it's not specific, there's not a time frame on it, it's not measurable? Is there anything on here that you can see?
The facilities plan is a little subjective implementation, but again, coming up with a way to do it, and I've given some ideas on how I would map it out, like looking at, because there's different facets to that study, right? So there's looking at long-term preventative maintenance. I'd like to seek funding in the operating budget for public facility ongoing maintenance. Do small upgrades to buildings, which we just talked about painting at 1870, and then apply for capital and other funds for building repairs. So I kind of have a plan. That one I think is just going to be another ongoing one. ARPA was giving me a heart attack, literally, until I watched this lovely webinar that actually came out over the summer that I hadn't had a chance to watch, and they came out with all these new flexibilities for how to implement the fund, so I'm feeling a lot better about that. So, long-winded answer, no, I think everything on here is fair, smart, measurable. As long as there's an understanding that some of these might cross fiscal years, or fiscal years.
Well, and none of us can forego the future. There might be something big that comes up that is not on the list, and one of these might, 4 months from now, make absolutely no sense to do anymore. And I wouldn't want to push a project and say, we're dinging you because you didn't do the playground replacement, because, there's some sort of state zoning thing that made it impossible to do,
Right.
and so.
Or the bids came in ridiculously
right.
high and we didn't have the funding. Yeah.
I think all of
That's
these are
happened
with
before.
good intention. And again, like the redesign of place, I think the facility plan is, I think I'd like to see, like, in a year, some more structure to it. And so, but I can't imagine we're gonna solve all the facility issues in one fiscal year, even a detailed plan about how we're gonna solve all the facility issues in one fiscal year. I think, if by this time next year, several of the buildings maybe have glide paths to do something else or be something else, be it a storage or other use for the town, or something to make it not part of the town, I think that would make me happy.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that is coming down to policy decision and what the will of the board is. That's really where you guys really come into play, is the future use of those buildings. So one thing we can do is keep bringing a few at a time before the board and having those conversations.
Yeah, I get a little nervous when we're talking about demolishing these, and you're gonna have some, what was it, the housing authority do
Yep.
this to that one.
Yep.
If we still need storage, we need to pick one,
Or build a building specific for storage, or rent space specific for storage. But I agree, storage has to become part
A
of the
part of it.
conversation.
Right,
Because we can also decide that we store less things.
yes.
And I think that was sort of the mutual agreement that we came to with the historical commission at the last meeting, was you guys come back to us with some of your ideas and we'll come
Yeah.
back together with
It-
our
It
ideas.
is not just historic that has a lot of stuff stored.
Right.
True.
I mean, as we just cleared out the clerk's office, there were a lot of things in that office that probably
Nope,
don't, there's
that's
probably
very
been
fair.
more things in that office. And I think if we go around town, there are other
Yeah.
departments.
That just happened to be
probably store
fresh
things.
on
Yes,
my
I
mind,
know.
but no, that's very fair.
I feel we pick on historic for storage, and they have some larger items, but there's a fire truck taking up a very large bay in this place that is not owned by historic, that we have, and there was hopefully we've gotten rid of there was a grader or some sort of old antique-y
Oh,
sort
the
of thing.
roller or
Yeah, there was
something?
something in
The thing
that
that
you, we've
Walter
gotten,
mentioned
yeah,
at town meeting?
Yeah, that we've gotten rid of because, at least I believe we've gotten
It's
rid
in
of.
the Brown Barn.
Yeah, it was in the
But
Brown
It
Barn.
was
Yes.
in the Brown Barn, it
I
is
don't
no
think
more
it
in the
is
Brown
anymore.
Barn?
No, it's been successfully disposed of.
I said
but-
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell Walter.
And something happened with the truck, too.
The knot?
Is Chief still on here?
We can get it some next time.
Yeah, we can get it for
But
next.
yes, that's
I am.
like, uh-oh.
Oh, look at that.
See,
I
now-
hear
now
him.
quarter
You
after
had your
one.
opportunity to leave, Chief, you
I
know,
know,
I
it's
could have just been
Now you
quiet.
have to talk about old fire trucks.
That's right.
Which one would you like me to talk about?
The one that's in storage underneath the old, ambulance building?
All right, so Chief, the knot is the first fire truck in Berlin. What building is that in?
That is in the firehouse, in the red and white brick building that has the second floor
Okay.
that was used by the Boy Scouts.
Then what's in the old rescue building?
Well, I'm happy to say nothing because we took that fire truck out and it's sitting in the parking lot.
Shut up.
I wanted to
Really?
let
How
him
did-
tell you.
Oh my God, how did you get it out of there? Because that was totally like Stonehenge. You had like that much space of a piece of paper to pull that thing out.
Well, I would love to take credit and tell you how great I am, but the guy that was at the meeting at the beginning and stuff that gave his update is the man to thank for that. Fred
Oh,
Cummings
Fred.
was behind that, and he was able to
More
get it
good
out.
deeds.
Wow.
So yeah, we have that out, and as a matter of fact, I think there are some people in town that are interested in that truck. So I did reach out to Kristen via email just to say, hey, do I need to get rid of that on municipal bid, or can I do like just a public auction to kind of take bids over it over a 2-week period of time and give it to the highest bidder? And I guess I can do either. So
Yes.
I'm kind of looking at doing, to be honest with you, my thought is I'm going to do like a 2-week thing for anybody in the area to take out ads in the paper and post it and stuff, just because I wouldn't mind seeing the truck go to somebody locally that can use the truck.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the parking lot at the moment. It actually, in my infinite wisdom, I had it removed because I wanted it out there because I wanted to do something with it. So now it's going to be there for open house as well. So.
Throw a tarp over it. Fred can get you a big blue tarp.
Put a for sale sign on it and a QR code where people can go and place bids.
Or an auction.
That's
No, we
actually
do
not
have to
a
go
bad idea.
through a specific advertising process if it's a bid. That's why municipal is really nice, but we'll chat.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do
Make
other
it-
things in
put-
addition.
place
to
your
that. Yeah, you could
auction.
like point people to that site.
That's very true.
And place your bid today.
So, Kristen, a question for you and also for you, Fire Mike. The knot that is in the firehouse, the old firehouse.
Yes.
We have heard, the town legends of it is owned by a certain family and it is supposed to go back to that family when we don't want it anymore. What are you giving, and I look to you, Fire Mike, and I look to Kristen, what are you giving for a final date for that family to step forward and say, here's the paperwork, it comes back to us, or sorry, we don't have the paperwork, do what you want with it?
I have some paperwork from the Relief Association that goes back over a period of time that I'm going to bring upstairs to give to you guys to at least look at and see who the truck actually belongs to. It's the Relief Association's belief that it belongs to them. However, they're also not. They're looking to, if we can salvage the truck and there's a possibility of getting it restored. They're looking at working on getting it back to the town, so it belongs to the town or at least stays in town. So I have a couple irons in the fire on that to kind of look at how we can go about getting the truck restored. And in the process of doing that, it gets it out of Berlin for that period of time. And we can look down the road future to whether or not it comes back to us.
Cool, all right. So the fire association, would they be the one paying, since they own it? Would they be paying for the restoration of it?
In a matter of speaking, basically what it comes down to is I have a friend through the fire service that he's retired, and he restores, old farm equipment, hay wagons and stuff. He's done a great job, and he just recently completed a fire truck that he did. And basically the way that he's willing to do it is he will take the truck or buy the truck, restore it, and then sell it back to the association or the town for whatever it cost him to refurbish the truck, meaning that not his time, but if it cost him $30,000 in paint and materials that he had to put on the truck, he would give those invoices back to the town or the Relief Association, with the right of first refusal being the town and the Relief Association, to say, you can buy the truck back, here's what, if he didn't buy the truck, if it was just given to him, he would show what he paid to actually have the truck restored. And it would be lettered as, with Berlin on it, and, everything it was when it was first built. With his intention, he was like, it should go back to the town it came from, but if the town doesn't want to have it or can't house it appropriately, then when he went to get rid of it, he would look to selling it to somebody else. But it would come back to the town for a right of first refusal for whatever money he put into the truck.
So that would be, so the fire association, there are like living, breathing members still of that?
Yes, right now Kyle Litchwell is actually the president of the Relief Association. And so it's my understanding that most of the members of the department are part of that Relief Association as well, along with some of the past members and stuff that are still active members. So I do know they have had meetings at the fire station over the last year. And that's where I kind of get the paperwork to say, hey, you guys have some paperwork that shows something between the town and the Wheeler family and kind of where the truck came from and how it came to be today. And that's the paperwork that I'm bringing forward that I'll be submitting to you guys just as exhibits to say this is what we have, or that the Relief Association has.
So then, Kristen, would we need to take a vote to either say the selectmen are or not going to buy it, and it's up to the fire association to buy it or not? Because let's just say that the fire association decides to buy it. Are they also gonna pay for a building to put it in? Because we can't store it anywhere. It's gonna rust and get gnarly like it is now.
Well, and I think that the storage concern is very valid. So Chief, did you have ideas on where it would go afterwards?
That would be something that we probably need to talk about where it would go afterwards, whether we build a bay or something to store the truck in. I know Chief Shartner and I have talked about doing something along the lines of trying to do like an outside carport, if you will, with solar panels on the top to put the police cruisers and some of the fire equipment and stuff, to kind of neaten it up outside and kind of move the cruisers away from where the food pantry is, looking further down the road at a capital project. And if that's something that at that point we build a bay to put the truck in so it's kind of protected from the elements, we can look at, there are a couple different options there, and it would probably be something that would be several years down the road if everything aligned and it came to fruition that the truck was going to get refurbed. It wouldn't be something that would be done over like a 2 or 3 month period. It would probably take, I'm going to guess, a year or two anyway for this individual to do that. So it would give us a little bit of time to kind of look at what we want to do or how we want to house the truck, if we want to do something more involved in that or just something as simple as that.
Yeah, let's put it on a future agenda.
And that's what I was just looking, so they're not up next because capital's coming next, correct? I didn't see anything on
Monday.
October 7th, or October,
Let's see.
October 7th I see
Did we not
capital.
put them in yet?
Um,
Oh, we just haven't plugged it in yet. I have to see who's on the schedule to
All right.
come on the
So
7th.
Chief, would you be able to get us all the information by the time you and Mr. Shatna are here, and maybe some additional information on the fire association people and how they think that they would pay for it and or house it if the town says, nope, not us?
Yep, I can start those discussions, at least get the paperwork for you, and then be able to at least have that discussion to talk about where we're at.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, cool. Thank you, Chief. Go
You're
away
welcome.
quick before we find another question for you.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.
All right, so back to you. I know we got way late a little bit. So on your goals, is the board ready to make a motion that these are good, not good, need to add,
I'm ready to make a
update?
motion that these are good.
Okay. Is there a second?
Can I say something first?
Mm-hmm.
On your bottom goal here, Scott, I mentioned when we didn't know what exactly it meant, Kristen and I mentioned to her that one of the things we could do with some groups is have them be under her, the ones that are elected be under her. I don't know if that's a part of this or no. Remember?
I think there's only one elected employee, right?
There's assessors, there's,
Oh, you're
Oh,
talking
good.
about the yeah, if we could, that would require the bylaw revision, so we can definitely talk about that as part of the plan. That would be Board of Health and
Yeah.
assessors, right? And
Yeah.
they're both elected.
right.
So, yeah, that's why it would require that.
And
Right.
it could be the town clerk too, but
I just,
it doesn't seem to be something
that,
she wants to do.
that semi or mostly volunteer boards I saw would still be
Okay.
relatively independent. I didn't
Yeah.
think of them reporting through anyone.
The town clerk would require a town meeting vote to change it from
Yeah.
elected to
Mhm.
appointed.
Right, which we did with treasurer and tax collector already, and so it would be a continuation of that plan.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, that's sort of outside of it then. So you wanna just leave it the way it is?
I like it currently nebulous that allows us to figure out, because again, I don't think
Mhm.
anything is being implemented in the next 12
Mhm.
months. I
Okay.
think it's figure out, and I think some of that might be the part of our discussions of who does it include and who doesn't
Yep,
include.
right. Okay.
To get it. Again,
work
my
that
general
out.
goal is, in the long run, to get it so that we have less liability when it comes to HR law violations.
Okay, then I'll second your motion.
All right, so Kristen, the only thing that I would ask is that you update this and put a time frame for completion of 25 and beyond, and then under person responsible various, just so that there is something in there.
Sure.
And it is specifically vague. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Nope, not hearing any. All those in favor of approving Kristen's goals, say aye.
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 All right, congratulations, off you go.
Thank you.
All right, Kristen, back to you. You seem to be like the winner for tonight's meeting to talk about additional ARPA funding.
So, I will make this quick. The good news is we have a tremendous amount of additional flexibility, which is great. The Treasury did a webinar. They received over 100 comments to their requirement to obligate funding by the, comment letters rather, to obligate funding by the end of this calendar year. I'm frankly surprised that they didn't receive more. And so they've offered a couple of different ways that you can obligate funding, or funding is considered to be obligated. The one that's going to pertain the most to us would be what they're calling interagency agreements. So I think this is the best path forward for the playground, 1870 in Bullard, and the public safety second floor renovation, because those funds are crossing over and they're going to be used in 26, 27, calendar year 26 and 27. And so basically it's an agreement between the select board and the department or committee overseeing that particular project. So we can get into it by the end of the calendar year. And that way, in case the project doesn't get completely out to bid and under contract in all of its various components by then, and I might be able to get a little bit of sleep, then we're covered. And those are considered obligated because they will have a scope of work and a dollar amount budgeted that's allocated to the project. Should we also have any straggler funds, we can put them into payroll expenses for FY 26, for 26 and 25 and 26 rather. And then there's another option that is kind of annoying about legal and administrative costs, and that's really not that flexible. The other thing that's really nice that they added was flexibility regarding modifying obligated projects and modifying contracts. So funds can actually be reclassified from one project to another now. So as long as both of those projects were obligated in terms of funding by the end of this calendar year, so if one comes in under budget, one comes in over budget, you can move from one to the other as long as they were both obligated by 12/31/24. They also put in some provisions for amending an existing contract, so that way if you have a change order or something of that nature, they've addressed that too. So a lot of the things that had me awake at night are making me feel a lot better. And then potential uses for the funds that have been brought to my attention, as we mentioned, we just allocated 15,000. When I looked at the playground quote, it actually came in 15. I don't know where I got 7,500 from, but it came in 15,000 over. But like I said, we have to put that back out to bid. It could come in even lower, could come in higher. That department head training One of the things CMRPC is trying to do is a shared services plan between communities, and I've felt that the town planner is a gap we've had since the first couple of weeks that I was here. So we could put potentially some personnel money into that as a 2-year pilot project shared with another community, and potentially some additional funding into the upstairs project, and if worse comes to worse, we put it into an existing salary line. So we will not lose any of this funding or give any of this funding back, is the
Sweet.
bottom line.
Sweet, sweet.
What I would actually like to do, potentially over some of the projects you've just mentioned,
Yep.
is a project, let's call it 22, since 21 will be the 1870 painting, is an inter-office contract between us and the highway department to implement the facilities plan at maybe
Ooh.
$500. But if that's contracted by, if that's put into place by December 31st from your rules, that means that if in the next 2 years a project has free money, we could easily move it to anything in the facility study
Very smart.
later on. So it becomes sort of the bucket that we could use going forward. And if we get some money, great. If none of all the projects come in, there's nothing more for that, we don't lose anything. Because
We always
again,
have stuff
we
coming
could
up
do,
on the-
right,
on
we
that
could say,
category.
$5 just to make it a project that's contracted by the end of the year, and then we can add money to it if necessary later on.
We do have to
And-
give it a
and-
scope, but I think we
But the
can pull
scope's a
stuff
facility
right out
study.
of the facility
Right,
study.
you can
Yep.
pull the facility, pull anything that says immediate or years 1 to 3, so the facility studies justifies it within the time frame of ARPA. And we're not gonna have hundreds of thousands of dollars left over anyway. I mean, this is probably allows us to do a $3,000 to $5,000 to $7,000 project in an existing building that was already pre-identified.
Like the painting that we just
Yeah,
talked
like the
about,
painting we
yeah.
just did.
Yeah, the painting, the lights,
Yeah.
the caulking of the windows, I mean, the
Yeah.
minor stuff that facility guy would, or girl,
Right.
would do.
Or we find an outside contractor to do, but it
Yep.
allows us to do so. I think it builds in some flexibility based on those new rules.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I like it when we put our collective brains together, because I can't think of everything. So that's a really good suggestion. I don't know how anyone else feels about it, but I know one of the goals was to really see if we could use some of this money for the buildings.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is a way to do it.
Mhm.
Awesome. So that's all I have right now for ARPA. I'm gonna keep plugging away at it, but I just wanted to give you an update that we have some more options, and if you think of anything else or have any other brainchilds along the way, we can continue to have those conversations, because now I literally don't feel like I have a gun to my head right now anymore, so it's better.
All right, so next up, we will finalize, we will set the date, time, and location for our special town meeting on December 9th, 2024.
And this could be my fault too, because I couldn't remember the time that we set it for.
Usually it's 7:30.
It is, but I know we moved
7.
the June one up, so I
We had
didn't
this
know.
conversation.
Right.
I thought it was like 6:30.
I thought we were gonna try to move it up again.
To
because-
6:30?
yeah,
Okay.
No,
to
let's do
6:30 or
6:30.
7, just, I know that makes it a little
Unless
hard to
it's a
get.
bylaw.
Not for special.
No, it's not for special,
Yeah.
that's why we had to do
Okay.
it for town meeting and why we could for specials.
Right.
Because, it just gets people home earlier, too.
Correct. Correct. All right, so you're looking
So-
for a motion?
So moved that we have the special town meeting on, it's Monday, right? December 9th at 6:30 at Berlin Memorial School.
In the gym.
All right,
Great.
having a motion and a second, no more discussions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Through the chair, can I make a recommendation we put D and E on the 7th agenda, because it's rather light right now, and those are kind of heavy discussions?
I'll second that.
All right, to me, those are two relatively easy ones, but,
It's always 10, 15 minutes each, though.
they're
Really?
not even 10, 15, I can tell you D is not even 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, fine, I will,
I just know we're meeting Monday, and I don't have all that much on the agenda, and given the hour, I, thought maybe we could move.
I
I'm-
thought we
I'm
were
getting
gonna
the
do
dagger
a
eyes.
regularly every other week, too.
It got messed up this
Yeah.
time because
Because you changed to
'Cause-
the 16th and the 30th or something.
Because you
I
guys
went on
didn't want to meet
vacation.
with me last week, I think that was the reason.
No, it's because I went on vacation.
I know.
Shame, shame, shame.
We should
All right.
coordinate vacations better.
We should, you and I. Maybe
right.
I'll go to your places, they sound better.
so, we'll move D and E for our
Next
October
week.
7th.
To Monday night.
meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. Th-
No,
Will there
the-
be more? Because I don't
yeah,
remember
the
things
7th.
seeing even in the folder on D&E when I last looked.
No, it's just a discussion.
It's just a discussion.
Well,
But
you know,
even like the
he does
parameters of
have-
the discussion.
He does have information now, remember?
Anyway, well, we'll do it on Monday.
He
Oh,
does.
yeah, I had put something in the wrong folder, so I
Okay.
did move the quote for the
Okay.
demo into that right folder. Yep, you're
Yeah,
right.
there wasn't any, it wasn't in
I
any
had it in the
folder.
wrong folder. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine.
No, I saw it, it was like 42 and change. All
Yeah.
right, so Skippy-Doo,
So we wanna do F?
F?
moving down to F. So request for change to this coming Saturday for the voluntary road.
Right.
I can tell you that I spoke personally with Chief Shatna, asked if there were any concerns because open house is also that day. The toll road is from 9 to 11, the open house starts at 11. There may be a little bit of overlap, but there are details that will be provided for the Lions, and he's thinking that with the open house, it may drive more people through town, which could benefit the Berlin Lions. So
Yep.
he had zero concerns about the two events on the same day.
I would
That was my question.
All right,
Okay,
so,
so,
motion?
So-
motion to approve.
second.
All right, no more discussions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, up next is the Barbara Krakow Memorial.
I spoke with the Rogalinskis, Wendy and Stan. There is a memorial fund at Clinton Savings Bank to build a gazebo or a pavilion in Barbara's memory. So they wanted to just start the conversation about potentially where that could go. The options that came to their mind were perhaps the front of First Parish Church. They thought that we might own a section of that where the sidewalk is. It doesn't, the assessor's card does not show that. I haven't conveyed that back to them, but looking at the property record card. Or the other thought was over on Pleasant Street by Judy's Bench, because they were friends.
Judy's bench.
Judy Christensen's.
That would definitely take a chat with conservation, they may
It-
get a little
Yeah.
wiggy about something
Exactly.
else going there.
But so that was kind of their first choice, and then their second choice was perhaps to put a garden down at the pavilion that's going in on South Commons, but I mentioned now that it's moved next to the rec courts, I'd be afraid of people
Damage.
trampling on it.
Yep.
So, their third choice was to do something when we switch the gazebo and the pavilion down on South Commons, to do something over by the tennis and pickleball courts at the little gazebo that we talked about moving over there. So I just wanted to give the board an update, see if anyone had any thoughts. It's just in sort of the discussion phase, and obviously, now that I know that we don't own a portion of the front sidewalk in front of First Parish, it would either take a conversation with the church, or with conservation.
So, Peg, do you remember, that Stan came to the board at one point and had a stone he wanted to put
Mhm.
in front of the highway barn?
Which is there now.
It's there? Oh,
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that until I was driving by like 2 days ago and saw a stone there that,
What does it say?
there's 2 names on it, Crackheart is one of them. I can't
Yep.
remember what the other one is.
Yep.
I don't know
Because
anything
that's the
about that.
property that, Mrs. Crackhart owned and gave to the town to put the new highway barn on.
Oh, I
Mhm.
did not know.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so there's a
So
stone
I
up
just
there.
had wondered if he'd mentioned that. Well, I guess he
No-
must have
nope.
done something.
Yeah. I
News
don't
to me.
remember seeing it before. When I drove by this past weekend
He was
running
supposed
errands,
to
I'm
come
like,
back to us, but
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know, maybe somebody else took care of it.
no,
Yeah, I don't know.
it
I
looks
can-
nice.
Good.
The lettering is nice
I'll have to
on
take
it.
another better
Yeah,
look at it
yeah.
when I go by there.
You can't miss it.
I'll have to
I
take a
don't
peek
go
at it
that
too.
way much anymore, but
No, I
So-
think that would be a nice memorial, you know, Mrs. Crackhart was loved by many in this town, and she did great things as a
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
and it shows with her daughter Wendy.
Yeah.
she wrote, like plays and.
Yeah, I mean, Mrs. Crackhart was lovely, I mean, she was a former Boston Cane Award recipient. We had a picture of her back there, so, if they can come back with more skinny,
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'll get back to them and let them know that it's either the church or Concom, and whichever way, if they wanna go with Concom, then I can connect her up with Carolyn to have that, have them come before Concom and have that conversation. But I just wanted to update
And
the board.
what was it that they wanted to, put there?
Either a gazebo or a
Oh, gazebo.
pavilion,
Gazebo or pavilion,
Yeah.
okay.
preferably, and then a garden if that didn't work.
you know, and it might not be bad in the center of town, because you have all the flowers
I know.
and then you go over the hill to start walking the trails.
Yep.
So, might not, Concom may be amenable to having something, so admire the flowers, go walk your trail, sit, relax. But yeah, I would maybe point Wendy to Concom just to get their initial yay or nay.
Right. Well, and because that she had heard about the Complete Streets project and everything we're doing
Mhm.
downtown, she wanted to bring it up sooner rather
Yeah.
than later to make sure we could incorporate it, since the church area was one of the places that they were possibly
They
thinking
could,
about, so.
they could probably do one or the other of those two things behind the church too, because they've used that property with 19 Carter too.
I
Yeah,
think the
but that's
concern is the
church's decision.
structural
Right.
issues of the
Mhm.
church. I think the concern is the structural issues at the church right now, so they're
Yeah.
trying to figure out where, because I think that was their original plan.
Oh, okay.
But now we don't know what's going
Well,
on.
You don't want the clock falling off the
It'll roll down West Street. All right, let us know with that. So the next one, the flamingos at the library. When I stopped in to see Victoria the other day, she asked if I would bring back to the board, instead of having scarecrows, the library is actually purchasing those pink flamingos in honor of Mr. Featherstone, who is buried at the cemetery on Pleasant Street, who was the creator of the pink flamingos that you see stuck in the yards.
Really?
Yes, so.
From Berlin?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, so what she wanted to do is provide flamingos to groups, and we could decorate them and then give them back to the library, and they would have a little contest, and then they could come back to whoever won them. So I didn't know if the board wanted to do a joint one, if you wanted to do your own. Scott, you wanted to do your own. Kristen D, you're in on this as well. I signed up for mine. I've already gone to the $1.25 store and started buying stuff. So I told Victoria that I would bring it forward and see if you all had any interest in doing a flamingo. And the order needs to be placed with her as soon as possible so that they can go get them.
And,
Yeah.
and who's judging this contest?
Well, probably Victoria and the library staff, because that's where that's who came up with it. Mm-hmm,
Well, we could offer if they need any help.
mm-hmm. So, are you in? You want a crow?
I don't think I want a crow.
You want a crow?
I'm having a hard enough time trying to.
Look at Scott. What, do you want a crow?
The relationship between the town of Berlin and the person who founded the Flamingos is not
I know,
perfect.
I know.
I think it is an incredible thing. I think it's a great thing. I'm not going to participate. I'm not a big fan of Halloween as a whole, which will probably make I never get elected
Except the
again in
candy.
town. But not even the candy as a whole. The holiday as a whole is not.
What if they were,
Do you
what if
have-
they were cider donuts though?
I do. I don't need.
Dunking for donuts?
I don't
He
need
doesn't
a
need
holiday. I don't need
Halloween.
I don't need a holiday to have cider donuts.
Do you want a flamingo?
I would love to work on a flamingo with someone. I was not gifted with creativity.
Well, neither am I, but I don't care.
Or artistic talent in any sort of way.
You know, it's called super glue.
Yeah.
I can order one.
Sure,
All
I
right.
will do a flamingo. I'll maybe rope D into it.
Rope D.
Yeah.
D is extremely creative.
She is extremely creative. She
All right,
is my
so
better half.
I will order one flamingo. I will put the order in tonight.
For the TA's office.
Yeah,
that would
and
be
then what we
awesome.
can
Thank
do
you.
is that, since I did ask Victoria, they do come with the stands, so maybe we could just get a pot. We could stick them outside your office.
There were a few flamingos across the street from me not long ago.
Yeah, well, there's a whole thing, like you get flamingoed and stuff,
Yeah.
you gotta pay
Yeah.
for that. All right, so moving on, so I guess we have to, have an appointment for Mr. Stage, back to Cultural Council.
This would be in an ex officio capacity, which he needs to be in for 1 year, and then he can rejoin the commission. That's the rule at the state.
Motion to approve.
Sounds good.
All right,
Second.
hearing no other questions, all those in favor of getting MJ back into Cultural Council? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, aye. Thanks, MJ, appreciate it. I know you're not watching, but that's okay.
He might at some point.
All right, board questions, liaison updates. Scott?
I sort of blew the one thing I knew about, what is that called? Housing Trust. Housing
Yes.
Trust has been actively looking at some properties around town, mostly, actually entirely things that are on tax title. We did a tour with a member of Conservation to get their take on some of the properties as well. I'm regularly reminded about the incredible talents of the people who sit on the Housing Trust, and their knowledge of perking and ledge and billable sizes and where good housing goes versus wells versus other stuff. Way more knowledge than I have into those topics. And so I think we came to an agreement on the 4 sites. We looked at sort of our priorities, and we're going to start sort of working on that. I did talk about one here, but I don't want to talk about two because they're all just potential. I don't want anyone getting excited that something's happening and it doesn't, or upset that something's going to happen that's not going to. They are working with the accountant's office on how to set up the trust fiscally and legally so that we can spend the money that has been given to the Housing Trust. And that is still being worked on, but that some of the projects are just on a little bit of a hold until that sort of paperworky stuff gets all sort of worked out. That includes sort of, we can't start sort of putting together marketing, advertising for a down payment assistance program if we had a perfect person and there was no way to actually get them the money. That would just be another frustration to a first-time home buyer. So we want to make sure all that is in place.
We have a meeting
before we go.
Wednesday
Yeah,
to
yeah,
discuss, so.
and I, at the committee, it was quite clear that things are moving along and that there's not, it takes time to do something the town has not done in a very
Right.
long time or before, so.
And we looked into a couple options too, because we want to see what works best,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, and so I think it's, but that is being worked on. They're likely for special town meeting, a warrant or an agenda item to potentially move one or more of these properties to the Housing Trust. We have to look a little bit more about, like, if the town meeting gives the Housing Trust to dispose, does another town meeting vote need to be needed to actually then give it to the next place? Because I believe the Housing Trust is an independent group that could sell properties that they're given. And so,
That would be probably a legal counsel question.
Yep.
Does town meeting have to authorize them to transfer and to dispose of?
Right.
Or can it just the transfer happen?
right, can we do it in one town meeting or does it need two? But we want to start that process again. So at some point, we can actually start using some of the monies that we have and some of the lands we have to turn into more affordable housing for folks in town.
Have you ever seen the, do you ever get off at the Westford exit on 495 North? I go up there to watch my grandson Fridays, and
Yeah.
there is a big, giant red barn sort of thing, and they have rehabbed it to be an affordable housing.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I know there's a lot of creative things going on in the state around sort of affordable.
Yeah.
The other thing, sorry, it reminded you, thanks for buying the time to remind me.
Oh, sorry.
Thinking about whether or not we should look at a joint meeting between Select Board, Planning, ZBA, and Housing Trust about the accessory dwelling units. There's likely something we should be putting on the
Yes.
fall town meeting for that.
That-
But all four groups have officially opinions on it.
Did you
and-
say ZBA too?
Yeah, I said ZBA
Okay,
too, yeah.
good, because I've had
Yeah.
calls
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
I've been
and to make sure we're
tracking-
all on the same page, because I hate any one of those groups to put something on town meeting,
Yeah.
have another one of the internal groups of town have opposition to it at some point, and it just fails, and we just end up fighting. If
Yeah.
we're gonna have disagreements, we should have it in a room together where we can figure out what's doable and not.
And I've been tracking it,
Yep.
too, and there's been webinars about it.
Yep.
From what I understand, it's essentially going to be allowed by right.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot we would
Yep.
have to do, for the fall. But I think as more regulations are
Right.
supposed to be coming out, and more information is supposed to be coming
Right.
out, it'd be good to, I think, get that and then schedule the meeting with the groups.
Because some of it might be we want in the fall to like, I don't want, there might be things to do in the fall to slow things down so we have time to actually write something better and more comprehensive. You're right,
Oh, I
there's a
see what
limit to
you're
what we
saying.
can restrict. But there might be, as a town, we might want to restrict it in some places and encourage it in other places. And because as a
okay.
state, it's a right, almost immediately, there are probably people who are gonna get something through the cracks before we can do anything. I think there's even some rules already that say at least the septic has to be able to handle the accessory dwelling unit, because that could cause even more problems out there. But as a town that historically has not liked accessory dwelling units, to suddenly have it available, we might want to see
Right.
what we can do on it and not on it.
And how it will affect our affordable numbers too, that was one of the concerns I
Yep.
was hearing about.
Okay.
Because they officially don't count it, but they account for dwelling units, so that,
Yeah.
well, luckily, the feeling is that even if some get through before we can put some more rules, that
Yeah.
we are above our limit by a chunk. That
Susanna
that's
from
gonna be good.
ZBA and Lynn Ryan and I both have
Yep.
been very concerned about this.
Yep,
Kristen, I would loop in, when Meg and Robin were here, that was one of the questions that would ask, and they said that it's really changing, every day.
Yep.
It is.
So, if we're gonna have a party with all the other boards, it might behoove us to ask Robin or Meg, or both, to join us virtually so that we can get
right.
skinny, right from the legislatures.
That's great, and I was also going to say, if we're going to have this big meeting of the minds, we might want to ask if CMRPC would be willing to be there too, because they have been on the forefront of tracking this legislation, and that's what they do is planning. So they might be able to be
Yeah.
helpful to facilitate
Right.
and answer some technical questions.
It is also, the weird thing is you want to have it really quickly so you can start sort of digesting some of it, but because things change daily, you don't want to have it so quick that we can't even, but.
It's like
you
a
have-
chicken and an egg
Right, because
kind
if you
of
have it
thing.
too late, then things you might want to have an opinion on, like ask the state legislators to like make some changes or put comments into the State Department, the state agencies that are working on writing some of these rules. So there are moments where I'm like, oh, next week is too late, and then there are moments where I think January is too soon. You
Right.
know, and so I don't have a strong opinion about when to do it, but at least to start on the radar of, does at least ZBA Planning and Housing Trust believe that we all should, like, have a meeting, and maybe it's even a coffee talkie type of thing,
Yeah.
that
Ooh,
we
there
don't
you
call it
go.
coffee talk, but
That's a
like,
good
we
idea.
do a public meeting, this is the groups that are
Yeah.
presenting, so that the town knows that, like, it's the one thing on the agenda is to talk about what we're doing about accessible dwelling units. All the groups have a chance to talk, we get to hear from citizens, and we don't try to make a decision at that meeting, we just try to at least hear where everyone's at and start digesting it as we digest the rule changes that are happening at the state level.
And we have it at 1870.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
in a
Okay.
room that's recently painted.
In the room that's recently painted.
They better hurry up.
I don't know.
Because this could be tomorrow.
Well, because, yeah, again, Monday's too late, January's
Right.
too soon, so
Correct.
find a way that satisfies both of those needs.
Exactly.
That's enough from me for tonight.
Okay. My turn?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I went to the COA meeting on the 24th of September. They've had some work done on the van, and the drivers will be trained on a new defibrillator. There will be Shine information available on October 16th and 30th from 9 to 12. And I believe this is through Victoria.
It is, and it will be here, from what I understand.
Well, they have given direction for people to call the COA Directors Line, leave a message to make an appointment, and unbeknownst to Dee, she will be asked to put information on the town website.
Surprise, all right.
Just so you can let her know.
I'll give
or-
her a heads up.
Yeah. COA members also had discussion on the director needing more than 24 hours per week. Concerned that the director would not be able to do the additional items for COA with only 24 hours a week, because they originally had 24 hours a week, I believe, and then added 6 more hours for social services. Am I correct?
They had 19 for COA and 21 for social services. So
Okay.
it gives them a few more. I know it wasn't
Okay.
what they were looking for exactly, so we'll have to scale back, you know, what can be done.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if you wanna call Bob and just say, listen.
Oh, we've talked.
Oh, okay, all
Yes.
right. Okay, Bob also gave WRTA update to Council on Aging members, and a question for you, Kristen. The Powder House News is now available on the town website. When?
Is it not there now?
Because those who were getting it, the Powder House
thought it
News
was there
previously
now.
through COA, if they wanted to only read it on the website,
Yep.
Victoria would send out an email to those people saying, okay, it's on the website, you can go look now.
So, there's a bit of a new way of doing it. It is on the website, it's on the homepage under news, and there is a link right in there to subscribe to have it automatically emailed to you when it's
Oh,
available.
very cool, very
Yep.
cool.
So the
All
first
right.
one is here, and many thanks to everyone who worked on it. I know that Lori Fairbay and
Mhm.
Dee worked really hard on getting that put out, and anyone else who I'm forgetting. So many thanks.
Good, good. All right, well, I'm one of those people, so I'll have to go and look.
Yeah, and if there's like a link you can click, there's a hyperlink, and then it'll just get emailed right to you with a link, and you click on it, and you can have it for your very own.
All right.
That went out 4 days ago, and the Shine appointments went out 5 days ago, so both of those are
Oh,
up on
the
the
shine's
town
on
of
there too?
Berlin.
I didn't even check.
Oh, okay.
Oh, excellent. Okay, perfect.
And the Council on Aging will possibly do a grab-and-go meal in October. The next meeting will be hybrid, Tuesday, October 22nd at 4 PM, and they usually only last an hour.
Chris, I have to stop you for a minute. I told them they can't do hybrid anymore until they have a COA director, because they have to have someone to run the hybrid meeting.
Oh,
So I put that in an
thought-
email to Bob.
Did you do the last one?
I did, but I am not always available to go to a COA meeting every month,
Right.
and no one else knows how to run it.
Oh.
So,
I think, what's her name was running it?
Dee helped out at the last minute.
From 19 Carter.
Oh,
The one that came in,
Evie.
no, not, with
Yeah.
Evie. She
oh,
came
Kate
in-
Bliss?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'll check with Bob then, because as long as Kate
All right.
knows how to do it, if we post it that way and then we don't run
Have
it,
to
which they
cancel the meeting.
did once, and
Yes.
they have to cancel the
Yes.
meeting. Yeah.
I thought maybe it was all figured out, but yeah.
I just
So
want to put that on your
It may or
radar.
may not be hybrid.
Yeah.
So, otherwise it'll be on the lower level in the COA meeting room. Okay, that's it.
All right, so I just have Concom. Kristen, can you confirm that are you or are you not getting soil packets to review and approve?
So, not
For
yet.
Maplewood?
What I actually received, there was one packet,
Okay.
and it was to remove soil. Because what happened was they had to do a bunch of remediation from soil that ran off from last July, not this July, but July 2023, into a pond that had to be remediated. And so they removed some soil, and so far I have yet to receive any soil importation packages.
All right, because they're saying that the soil is coming in, so. All right.
I think the soil was being removed.
Concom.
So it might be hard to tell whether it's coming or going because it's in a big truck one way or the other.
Well, they're meeting on Wednesday, so I will confirm.
Yeah, let me know because
Alright.
I haven't received anything and I'm certainly willing to reach out to DEP and talk to them if that's the case.
Okay. Highland Ridge, everything's stable. There's an open issue on wood chips being used for stabilization, but they're hoping to resolve that. CSX, they're removing some of the rail ties that have done damage to the river. That's being overseen by a wetland scientist. Oh, let's see, they're still storing ties on SVP property. They're getting better, but they need to be gone, so they're working on that. There's an issue with a private house regarding stabilization of their site. They continue to work with them. River Bridge, River Run, we're gonna skip over for a couple weeks, and yeah, that's enough. Okay, and then energy is tomorrow. Okay.
What was this N-Grid thing that you were talking about, meeting?
So energy, it's at tomorrow at 4:30. This is the free consulting and assistance with energy assistance programs that National Grid is offering to the town of Berlin. And as part of it, we have quarterly meetings with the town and the energy committee. So they're gonna have their first meeting with the energy committee tomorrow. So basically talking about rebates we can get, grants we can apply for, different incentives that we can do to improve. I think they're also gonna help us with that climate leader designation that we're looking to move to, which is the next phase of green communities.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think in November, there's the opt-in period for the new aggregate amount, because
Opt
that's.
out, you're
opt-out.
automatically opted in.
Because there's been some chatter online about bills going through the mail, to which, or through Facebook, to which I've tried to respond and say, check your usage, you know, because I know July and August, the heat dome, ours went up,
check to see what rate you're locked into. And unfortunately, a large part of the bill, which we have no control over, are all the services and all the fees that N-Grid charges. I know personally on my bill, that accounts for more than half of my bill, that my electric bill is really only $39, but there's over $65 in fees that you can't do anything about. So, that's where I've told people to,
It's kind of like your Spectrum bill.
yeah, I mean, there's fees, so hopefully people will pay attention and take a look at what the rate is coming in, which I think is like, what, 1.3 or 0.3? It went up a little bit
A
from where we are,
little
but
bit.
compared to what the National Grid rate is, it's an incredible savings, and then you're locked in, but again, unfortunately, with the fees going up, you have zero squat control over that.
We have that information under
Yes.
news and announcements, but it's gotten buried, so I will have it
Move it
moved
back
to
up.
the top.
Okay.
Yeah, so folks can find it.
Yeah, so that might be a good thing to move up for tomorrow's meeting, or to try and put that back out there to say, hey, see what you can do.
Down there.
Okay, that's all I got. So, given that, that's all we have, is there no executive session? Is there a motion to shut the meeting down and go home?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we'll see you October 7th. Roger, thank you. All those in favor of leaving?
Aye.
Aye. All right, have a good night.